Were you trapped in this place? After Goddess Tianqin was rescued, she immediately sat cross-legged on the ground and began to heal her injuries. She also truthfully answered Gu Qijue's questions. We were gods of the Shenhuang continent 10,000 years ago. My name is Tianqin. And the god opposite is named Tianzhu. About 10,000 years ago, a person calling himself the Golden Dragon Emissary came and interrogated us about the whereabouts of the Blood Dragon God. But we didn't know where the Blood Dragon God was, nor who the Blood Dragon God was. Then this Golden Dragon Emissary began to beat and torture us. Finally, he even nailed me to the ground, preparing to use even more cruel torture. However, it was at this time that the Golden Dragon Emissary suddenly left for unknown reasons. After that, he never returned. 10,000 years passed, and Tianzhu, who was bound by chains, gradually broke free. And then you arrived. Goddess Tianqin was quite honest, recounting everything to Gu Qijue in detail. After she finished, Gu Qijue continued to ask another question. Are there other creatures in the ancient temple of the Life Forbidden Zone? Goddess Tianqin nodded. There is an evil god palace in the Life Forbidden Zone. The evil god palace enshrines 6 evil gods, but 2 of them were also captured by the Golden Dragon Emissary and then killed by him. If nothing unexpected happened, there should still be 4 evil gods in the evil god palace now. The information provided by Goddess Tianqin was useful to both Gu Qijue and the Emperor Star Alliance. Gu Qijue now knew that there were indeed gods in the southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent, and as long as no major changes occurred, there might even be 4 evil gods in the evil god palace. Fortunately, he maintained enough rationality and did not immediately launch the next war after defeating the 4 domains allied army. Otherwise, in the war between the Emperor Star Alliance and the 5 Domains Alliance, the Emperor Star Alliance might not have been able to continue to gain an advantage. The Emperor Star Alliance was able to crush its opponents in previous wars because they had a huge advantage. The Emperor Star Alliance inherently possessed very advanced technological weapons. These technological weapons could not be perfectly countered by cultivators' magic treasures. After all, what they held were just magic treasures, not world-destroying divine artifacts. Furthermore, in previous battles, god-rank combat units like Gu Qijue were used as demigods. Gu Qijue on the battlefield was naturally a dimensionality reduction strike against other demigods. This time was different. The Life Forbidden Zone was among the trump cards of the 5 Domains allied army. If they continued to attack, they might not encounter evil gods, or they might encounter 4 evil gods. In such a situation, it was naturally necessary to prepare for the worst. It would be fine if they didn't encounter evil gods. But if they encountered 4 evil gods and couldn't come up with a countermeasure, then it would be troublesome. While Gu Qijue learned a lot of information from Goddess Tianqin, the god Tianzhu, who had been imprisoned for tens of thousands of years, was indeed no match for Gu Qijue. Boom! As an unwilling roar and a terrifying explosion successively echoed, the god Tianzhu was completely eliminated by Gu Qijue. A god crystal core also appeared on Gu Qijue's dragon claw. As Gu Qijue prepared to feast, Gu Qijue quickly spoke. Don't eat it for now. Consider it a loan from your commander. I'll return it to you later. Gu Qijue needed demigod crystal cores and god crystal cores to create gods. Gu Qijue's growth required a process. It wouldn't have much effect if it continued to eat god crystal cores now. The power of these god crystal cores could only be stored within its body and would take a long time to absorb and digest. However, if Gu Qijue obtained a god crystal core, along with some other rare materials, he could create a god now. After Goddess Tianqin joined the Infinite Group, the Infinite Group now possessed 4 god-rank combat powers. They could now contend with the Ancient Temple, or rather, the evil gods in the Evil God Palace. But if Gu Qijue created another god, they would gain a numerical advantage at the god realm level. 183. Tianqin, the second highest level god in the Infinite Group after Gu Qijue spoke, Gu Qijue thought about it, and then handed the god crystal core to him. The little fellow clearly wanted to eat this little snack, but most of the time, Gu Qijue was quite obedient. Gu Qijue's gains from this trip to the deep sea abyss were also substantial. He obtained a god crystal core, gained a divine rank fighting force, and also learned information about the divine temple and the golden dragon emissary. It seems that the Golden Dragon Emissary and the Blood Dragon come from 2 different powers, and the 2 sides are hostile. And the Golden Dragon Emissary represents the external power that Gu Qijue worries about. On the Shenhuang continent, he is currently unrivaled, but if an external power comes looking for him, whether he can defeat them is temporarily hard to say. However, the external power has not returned for 10,000 years. Perhaps they will never come again, or they have already been destroyed. In any case, there is no need to worry excessively for now. The immediate priority for the Infinite Group and the Emperor Star Alliance is still to eliminate the Five Domains Alliance. Gu Qijue searched this space, but did not find anything else. He immediately took Gu Qijue and Goddess Tianqin, preparing to find a way to leave this place. Boom! Gu Qijue first entered his second form, tightly grasped the blood spear, and launched a full-power strike against the barrier. However, under his full-power strike, this boundary barrier remained completely intact. Gu Qijue hesitated for a moment and directly entered his fourth combat form. Roar! A sky-shattering dragon roar sounded. The next moment, Gu Qijue directly transformed into the world-dominating blood dragon god state. Terrifying super god rank power also spread wildly from his body. Super god rank? Seeing this sight, Goddess Tianqin could only stare dumbfounded. Her eyes filled with disbelief as she looked at Gu Qijue. She finally understood why Gu Qijue had completely disregarded the evil Punisher god. It wasn't that he didn't know how powerful a god was, rather, being even stronger. He simply didn't put an ant of the evil Punisher god's rank in his eyes. Boom, crack, crack, as he grew more familiar with the Blood Dragon's power. His utilization of the Blood Dragon's power also reached a higher level. In the Blood Dragon God state, Gu Qijue can transform into three forms: the Bloody Eastern Divine Dragon, the Bloody Western Giant Dragon, and the Dragon Emperor humanoid form. When he casually punched out, the black boundary barrier that could trap a god was instantly pulverized into nothingness. Afterward, he gradually reverted from the Dragon Emperor humanoid form back to his normal appearance. His Blood Dragon God state consumes a massive amount of energy. Part of this energy comes from the residual power of the Blood Dragon, and the other part originates from his daily accumulation. While in the Blood Dragon God state, a large number of infinite crystal stones are furiously burned for every breath he sustains it. Therefore, if there is nothing important happening, he cannot continuously maintain the Blood Dragon God state and burn through funds. Of course, if he were to step into the super god rank himself, this problem wouldn't exist. When Gu Qijue brought Goddess Tianqin back to see the light of day, Goddess Tianqin was naturally overjoyed. Aside from her joy, she couldn't help but feel deeply shocked. She couldn't possibly imagine that Gu Qijue, who usually only displayed the demigod realm, was actually a powerful existence at the super god rank. With such power, even the Golden Dragon Emissary would not be Gu Qijue's match. What Gu Qijue feared was naturally not the Golden Dragon Emissary himself, but the massive power behind the Golden Dragon Emissary and other high-rank civilizations. But there's no need to worry now, after all, on this small patch of land known as the Shenhuang continent. Beings of that level do not yet exist. His conquest will soon cover the entire Shenhuang continent. In fact, after he displays sufficiently powerful strength, many places won't even require conquest. They can be settled simply by issuing a proclamation. When Gu Qijue appeared in the South Heng domain with Goddess Tianqin, a storm immediately swept through the South Heng domain. Gu Qijue faces top-tier beauties like Tian Yue demigod, Empress Jia Yinyu, Victoria demigod, and Moon god every day. His immunity to beautiful women is already very high. The other members of the Emperor Star Alliance were not the same, especially since Goddess Tianqin is not only stunningly beautiful, but also possesses divine rank power. She is a true god. Only the high-level officials of the Emperor Star Alliance know about the Infinite Group's moon god, but as for Goddess Tianqin, the South Heng domain already had a few uncertain legends about her. Coupled with Gu Qijue making a high-profile appearance with her in the South Heng domain, it naturally caused a huge sensation. The Emperor Star combat units who didn't know about the moon god, as well as the cultivation forces that had surrendered to Emperor Star, were all shocked that the Infinite Group possessed a divine rank fighting force. Those Emperor Star big shots who knew about the moon god were shocked that the Infinite Group had acquired a second divine rank fighting force so quickly. What they didn't know was that Gu Qijue and Gu Qijue were also divine rank fighting forces. Moreover, this time Gu Qijue obtained a god crystal core in the deep sea abyss, and upon returning, he could create the Infinite Group's fifth divine rank combat unit. Furthermore, during this period, the Infinite Group has already acquired many advanced materials. If they accumulate for a while longer, they can use the advanced materials acquired from various sources to create another god, which would be the Infinite Group's sixth divine rank combat unit. Of course, if Gu Qijue were to do this, the resources stockpiled by the Infinite Group would be completely exhausted. Whether to continue frantically creating gods or simultaneously focus on other aspects of development is a question that requires serious thought. Gu Qijue had goddess Tianqin appear publicly because he wanted to achieve the effect of shaking the mountain to scare the tiger. He wanted to see if those 4 evil gods would make a move, and whether the 5 Domains Alliance could only invite 4 evil gods. When goddess Tianqin appeared in the South Heng domain, the place called the Ancient Temple, which was actually the Evil God Palace, indeed showed activity. Inside the Evil God Palace, the 4 evil gods were all very surprised by the appearance of goddess Tianqin. The Water Marsh Evil God coldly said, "How did celestial zither appear again? Didn't they all die?" Zunfeng Evil God shook his head. "I don't know, if celestial zither didn't die, then the others might also be alive. Where have they been for these 10,000 years?" No one could answer Zun Feng Evil God's question, but Dai Sheng Evil God, who was once the leader of the 6 great evil gods, still provided a countermeasure. Regardless of whether the others are dead or not, we should first try to contact Celestial Zither and gather information. If the Emperor Star Alliance only has Celestial Zither as a god, then the original plan remains unchanged. Eliminate these ants and kill Celestial Zither at the same time. If they possess 4 divine rank fighting forces, then we must reconsider our strategy. The Shenhuang continent is vast and boundless. We can migrate elsewhere. There's no need to fight the Emperor Star to the death. Dai Sheng Evil God's decision was very simple. If they have the advantage, they stay and fight. If they don't have the advantage, they decisively run away. Please vote for monthly tickets. VIP readers get 1 free monthly ticket every month. Could you please cast it for nay? Thank you. 184. People from the Eastern Continent Council South Heng Domain. Emperor Star Alliance. Supreme Council Hall. A group of unexpected visitors made it necessary for Emperor Star to receive them. These visitors came from the East Continent of Shenhuang Continent and were advanced council members of the East Continent Alliance. The group of 5 were all divine rank experts. Their purpose in coming to the Emperor Star Alliance was to hope that the Emperor Star Alliance and the 5 Domains Alliance could cease hostilities. Because a unified Southeast Continent did not align with the interests of the East Continent Alliance. When these visitors arrived, Gu Qijue, along with the Moon God and Celestial Zither, 2 divine rank experts, as well as Vice Head of State Dai Qi and Vice Head Jai Tianyu, received them. Among the 5 advanced council members of the East Continent Alliance, the leader was Council Member Qi Haifeng, a divine rank 2 expert. Behind Qi Haifeng, 1 person was divine rank 2, and the remaining 3 were divine rank 1. If the Emperor Star Alliance had no divine rank experts, these 5 would have come, and whatever they asked Emperor Star to do, Emperor Star would have had no choice but to comply. Now, however, it was different, not to mention Gu Qijue's Blood Dragon God state, which was super god rank combat power. Emperor Star also had the Moon God, Celestial Zither, and Gu Qidong, all of whom possessed divine rank combat power. If it weren't for the visit of Qi Haifeng and others, Gu Qijue would have already gone to create gods. In this way, the Infinite Group would have its 3rd divine rank expert on paper. After the 5 members of Qi Haifeng's group were seated, he spoke directly. "Let me introduce myself. We are advanced council members of the East Continent Alliance, and my name is Qi Haifeng. This visit to the Southeast Continent is primarily for 2 matters. The first matter. We hope to acquire the patent for the Infinite Group's production of infinite crystal stones. The second matter. We hope that the war between the Emperor Star Alliance and the 5 Domains Alliance will cease immediately." After Qi Haifeng finished speaking, Jai Tianyu said with great displeasure, "The war between the Emperor Star Alliance and the 5 Domains Alliance is a matter of the Southeast Continent. What does it have to do with the East Continent? Shouldn't matters on the Southeast Continent be resolved by the people of the Southeast Continent themselves?" After Jai Tianyu spoke, Gu Qijue nodded and said, "Vice Head Jai Tianyu's meaning is my meaning. As for the Infinite Group's patent for manufacturing infinite crystal stones, the Infinite Group has no intention of selling it." As Gu Qijue's words fell, Qi Haifeng's expression became somewhat unpleasant, because the people of the Emperor Star Alliance spoke too bluntly, leaving him no room for maneuver. Their 5 divine rank experts had descended, yet the other party showed no face at all. Qi Haifeng narrowed his eyes slightly and said faintly, "Is there no room for discussion on these 2 matters?" Gu Qijue nodded. "Yes." Qi Haifeng looked at Gu Qijue but ultimately did not flare up. Instead, he said, "Sometimes problems don't need to be solved through war. The Emperor Star Alliance and the 5 Domains Alliance might be able to sit down and talk." Gu Qijue naturally disagreed with Qi Haifeng's view for eternal peace. Some wars are necessary. Qi Haifeng, of course, knew that everything Gu Qijue said was correct, but the East Continent Alliance simply did not want to see the Southeast Continent become a unified entity. After careful consideration, Qi Haifeng said, "The East Continent Alliance reserves its opinion and hopes that both sides can negotiate peace." Gu Qijue was not prepared to continue speaking with Qi Haifeng and made his final decision, saying, "From now on, the Emperor Star Alliance will become the sole ruler of the Southeast Continent. This point will never change. 1,000 cups are too few when drinking with a bosom friend. Half a sentence is too much when words don't agree." Gu Qijue and Qi Haifeng clearly had nothing more to say to each other. Qi Haifeng had initially considered whether to make a move and discipline Gu Qijue if his attitude was too strong. But now, he gave up on that idea. The moon god and celestial zither were both true divine rank combatants. Since these two divine rank experts obeyed Gu Qijue's command, Gu Qijue must also be a divine rank combatant. Furthermore, this place was the Emperor Star Alliance's stronghold, and taking action here would be very disadvantageous to them. Thinking of this, Qi Haifeng could only stand up, expressing regret on his face, and said, "Chief Gu, we are very regretful that we could not persuade you to stop your invasion. Since we cannot communicate at the negotiating table, the East Continent Alliance may take other, more effective measures." After he said this, Gu Qijue chuckled and said, "You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. And you certainly can't do whatever you want. Don't say I didn't warn you, see them out." Qi Haifeng naturally understood Gu Qijue's words, which made his expression change repeatedly. However, Qi Haifeng and his group of 5 ultimately did not cause trouble. After leaving the Supreme Council Hall of the Emperor Star Alliance, Qi Haifeng shook his head and said, "I originally thought Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star was a hero. Now it seems he is merely an arrogant madman." After Qi Haifeng spoke, the remaining 4 all nodded. One of them quickly said, "Why didn't we make a move just now to test Gu Qijue? Even if he turned hostile, it wouldn't have been a problem for the 5 of us to retreat." Hearing this, Qi Haifeng also nodded, but he still said, "That's true, but we don't need to share the firepower with those guys from the evil god palace. Even if we want to act against Gu Qijue and the Emperor Star Alliance, we should wait until both sides are severely weakened from fighting each other. We should go back and discuss this with the speaker before making a decision." Qi Haifeng didn't know that for a moment. Gu Qijue had also really wanted to keep all 5 of them. However, after weighing the pros and cons, Gu Qijue ultimately did not do so. If he had truly made a move with the help of the moon god, goddess Tianqin, and Gu Qidong, he could definitely have eliminated these 5 demigods. But the strength of the East Continent was clearly not comparable to that of the Southeast Continent. The opposing side could casually dispatch 5 divine rank experts, meaning there must be even more divine rank experts in the East Continent. The Emperor Star Alliance's main enemy at the moment was the 5 Domains Alliance, not the East Continent Alliance. Before resolving the 5 Domains Alliance, it was best not to casually make enemies. Otherwise, Qi Haifeng's group of 5 would have met a dead end this time. The appearance of the East Continent Alliance gave Gu Qijue a sense of urgency. He had to resolve the 5 Domains Alliance before the East Continent Alliance and the 5 Domains Alliance colluded. The 5 Domains Alliance currently had 4 evil gods, and if they received help from the East Continent Alliance, things would undoubtedly become more complicated. The Emperor Star Alliance's War Council was quickly convened once again. The presidents of the major groups, the leaders of the major overlord-level forces, and numerous other demigods, great emperors, and quasi-emperors of the Emperor Star Alliance. At Gu Qijue's command, everyone gathered together immediately. The Supreme Council Hall of the Emperor Star Alliance was soon filled with people. 185 mobilized the entire alliance. Prepare for the final battle. Everyone's gaze was focused on Gu Qijue. The many big shots were very curious about why the head of state had suddenly summoned them. After everyone had arrived, Gu Qijue's voice resonated throughout the entire Supreme Conference Hall. "Everyone, this head of state has decided to launch the final campaign ahead of schedule." Hearing this, countless people from all directions were extremely astonished. Although they had previously wanted to press on and continue attacking the 5 Domains Alliance, the information gathered during this period told everyone otherwise. Fortunately, Gu Qijue had stopped them from continuing the attack on the 5 Domains Alliance back then. Otherwise, by this time next year, the grass on many people's graves would be growing very tall. However, now that Gu Qijue wanted to move the date of the final battle forward, it inevitably left everyone a little confused. Demigod Gu Yang's asked, "Your Excellency, the head of state, according to the intelligence we have recently gathered, the Five Domains Alliance is not that simple. The Five Domains Alliance is suspected of having ties to evil gods, and attacking them could easily lead us to encounter evil gods. We must make ample preparations before attacking the Five Domains Alliance." Dao Te Huang, Bei Qingshan, and the others also nodded in agreement. If the Five Domains Alliance did not possess divine rank combat power, everything would naturally be easy to discuss. But that is not the case now. Facts have proven that the Five Domains Alliance possesses divine rank combat power. After several demigods spoke in succession, Gu Qijue raised his hand, signaling everyone to quiet down. After he raised his hand, the previously noisy conference hall quickly became so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Gu Qijue's voice was transmitted once more. Currently, within the Emperor Star Alliance, this head of state's adopted son Gu Qijue, the moon goddess and goddess Tianqin are all divine rank combat power. Barring any surprises, the Five Domains Alliance also only has 4 divine rank combat power. In the short term, the Five Domains Alliance and the East Continent Alliance will not form an alliance. What the Emperor Star Alliance must do is eliminate the Five Domains Alliance before they form an alliance, thereby completely achieving the great unification of the Southeast Continent Plate. As Gu Qijue's voice faded, everyone in the Supreme Conference Hall looked worried. Facing divine rank combat power, the major corporations of Emperor Star and the various hegemon-level forces were clearly extremely apprehensive. Some people even entertained the thought of stopping their conquest here. After all, Emperor Star currently already controlled half the territory of the Southeast Continent Plate. The members of the Emperor Star Alliance seemed like they should be satisfied. Others worried about what would happen if they lost the battle. They were so eager to take down the Five Domains Alliance with a single surge of momentum because they thought the Five Domains Alliance had no gods. Now that they knew the Five Domains Alliance possessed gods, they truly dared not easily launch a war against them. While the crowd below was discussing animatedly, Gu Qijue did not speak. The barefoot are not afraid of the shod, initially. The Emperor Star Alliance did not occupy much territory, so everyone was willing to fight for it. Now that the Emperor Star Alliance controlled a significant amount of territory, asking everyone to risk their lives again required them to weigh the consequences. Of course, a very small number of people, like Gu Qijue, had higher aspirations. Vice Head of State Dai Qi and Vice Head Jai Tianyu were such people. They had no intention of settling for one corner. Half the territory of the Southeast Continent Plate could not satisfy them. Under these circumstances, Vice Head of State Dai Qi spoke up. Everyone quiet down. Although Dai Qi was not a god, as a Vice Head of State of the Emperor Star Alliance, he still held immense authority. As the first demigod born on Emperor Star itself, even today, many demigods and great emperors give him face. Demigod Dai Qi waited for everyone to quiet down, then said, "Settling for one corner is absolutely unacceptable. If we choose to settle for one corner now that we possess the strength to fight, but if our enemies were in our position, would they give us a chance to breathe? The Emperor Star Alliance can only truly establish a firm foothold after completely sweeping across the Southeast Continent Plate. At that time, we will possess more resources and a larger population. We will then be able to better cultivate powerful individuals, train combat units, and develop technology. By possessing the entire Southeast Continent Plate, we will gain more initiative and more options. At this critical moment, absolutely no one must waver. I have finished speaking. Your Excellency, the head of state, please supplement." Gu Qijue nodded slightly, then looked at everyone in the hall and said, "I only have a few points to add. Firstly, the Southeast Continent Plate is merely the first step on the Emperor Star Alliance's path of conquest. Our journey is still the entire Shenhuang continent. Secondly, as always, victory belongs to us, and glory belongs to the Emperor Star Alliance. Those who dare to fight stand up." After Gu Qijue finished speaking, he was the first to stand up. Following him, Vice Head of State Dai Qi and Vice Head Jai Tianyu both stood up. Gu Yangs shouted, "Glory belongs to Emperor Star," infected by his enthusiasm. More and more great emperors and quasi-emperors stood up at this moment. "Victory belongs to us, glory belongs to Emperor Star." In just a moment, approximately 3/4 of the powerful individuals had stood up in succession. After these 3/4 of powerful individuals stood up, the remaining quarter naturally wavered. In the end, Everyone in the entire Supreme Conference Hall stood up. The last two sentences spoken by Gu Qijue continuously echoed in the empty hall. Victory belongs to us, glory belongs to Emperor Star. At this moment, most powerful individuals no longer hesitated, and the fear in the hearts of the few remaining was largely dispelled. Under the leadership of head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star, they were invincible and swept away all opposition. It was true before, it is true now, and it will be true in the future. After everyone resolved to proceed with the great final battle, they began summarizing intelligence and strategic deployment. Regarding this intelligence summary and strategic deployment work, Gu Qijue handed the task over to Vice Head Jai Tianyu to complete. He only needed to make decisions regarding the general direction. Other matters could be completed by Vice Head Jai Tianyu and Vice Head of State Dai Qi. It was clearly fine to let Jai Tianyu and the crowd work together on this matter. While everyone was still discussing, Gu Qijue had already returned to the Infinite Group floating base headquarters to handle more important matters. The top-floor manufacturing hall of the Infinite Group floating base. This was where Gu Qijue manufactured various black technology items and created gods. He handed the strategic deployment task to Jai Tianyu precisely so he could return and create gods. With the experience gained from manufacturing the moon goddess last time, he was much calmer about manufacturing gods this time. The massive quantity of advanced materials acquired by the Infinite Group had long been stored in this location. 186. Snow Goddess. Ancient Ruins Magic Mirror. A large number of advanced materials were quickly tallied by Gu Qijue. After counting all the advanced materials currently owned by the Infinite Group, as well as the advanced materials on him, Gu Qijue realized that he could now create gods. Moreover, he could create two gods, but after creating two gods, the Infinite Group's energy reserves and materials reserves would basically be depleted. After some thought, Gu Qijue finally decided to create only one god. You have to eat one bite at a time and walk one step at a time. Furthermore, the Infinite Group's other combat units also needed to be upgraded. This way, they could increase their chances of survival in the upcoming brutal war. Gu Qijue's final arrangement was to use 2/4 of the materials to create a god. Of the remaining materials, 1/4 would be used to strengthen all combat units of the Infinite Group. His decision was very wise, because every war is very cruel for conventional combat units. In this decisive battle, both sides are bound to fight to the death. Under such circumstances, this battle will be even more brutal. After arming themselves with a large amount of black technology, the Infinite Group's conventional combat units could survive as much as possible. After making a decision in his heart, Gu Qijue began to choose the god he wanted to create. This time, the materials were relatively sufficient, and he did not encounter the dilemma of last time, lacking important materials at the critical moment of creating a god. This time, he could create a total of 3 gods: the Wind and Snow Banshee, the Snow Condensing Goddess, and the Winged Centaur. These 3 creatures are all divine rank beings. The Wind and Snow Banshee is an ice sculpture-like creature shaped like a woman carved from crystal. Lu Xiaoqian was overjoyed after seeing it, while Gu Qijue had no intention of doing anything with the crystal doll. The third, the Winged Centaur, was actually very beautiful. Just looking at the human part, she was definitely a great beauty. Unfortunately, the other party was not a true great beauty, but a beautiful centaur. Gu Qijue also had no intention of doing anything with the beautiful centaur, so his choice was the Snow Condensing Goddess. This was a peerlessly beautiful woman, with robes fluttering. With a thought, Gu Qijue then used the infinite engine to begin manufacturing. Buzz, a god crystal core, along with a large number of rare materials and a large amount of advanced energy stones. At this moment, they were all swallowed by the infinite engine. After these massive resources were swallowed by the infinite engine, a ball of light gradually appeared in the manufacturing hall. Within this ball of light, emitting a holy glow, a god was gradually taking shape. After a while, the holy ball of light, emitting a soft white glow, became even more radiant. This process lasted for about an hour before the holy light gradually disappeared. Then, a goddess, like a divine consort or fairy, appeared before Gu Qijue. Jai Tianyu is the first wife. Jai Yinyu is the second wife, Victoria is the third wife, Moon Goddess is the fourth wife, and Celestial Zither is the fifth wife. So this Snow Condensing Goddess is his sixth wife. If he favors one a day, he can rest on Sunday. However, with his blood dragon god physique, he obviously doesn't need to rest, and having another goddess wife would be no problem. After the Snow Condensing Goddess appeared, she bowed to Gu Qijue. "Greetings. Your Excellency, the head of state." Dispense with the formalities, Gu Qijue said casually. After speaking, he continued, let's find a place to spar. Upon hearing this, Zhu Ning shook her head. I am no match for your excellency. The head of state. Gu Qijue, of course, knew that Zhu Ning was not his match. He just wanted to tease his new wife during a battle. However, if Zhu Ning didn't want to spar, he had no intention of forcing her. Moreover, the Emperor Star Alliance is about to have a decisive battle with the Five Domains Alliance. He couldn't have warriors fighting to the death on the battlefield while he enjoyed music and dance with beauties in his tent. Of course, hugging his new wife was still fine. To the astonished gaze of the snow-condensing goddess, she was easily picked up and held horizontally by Gu Qijue. Your Excellency, the head of state. The snow-condensing goddess was very easily shy. Gu Qijue had merely picked her up, yet her cheeks flushed. Her exquisite face was covered in a blush, her pretty face turning red all the way to her earlobes. Jai Tianyu, Jai Yinyu, Victoria, Goddess Tianqin, and Moon Goddess are all very beautiful. But the snow-condensing goddess has an advantage that none of them possess, while Jai Tianyu and the others are soft. The snow-condensing goddess is truly soft to the point of being boneless. When Gu Qijue held her in his arms, it was as if he was holding a soft ball of cotton. Her body was also very light, although she was a god. She seemed too slender and graceful. However, the snow-condensing goddess had flesh in all the right places. It could be said that all the nourishment went to where it should. While the snow-condensing goddess was nervous, Gu Qijue decided to keep her nervous until the end. Buzz, his immense demonic power quickly secured the Infinite Group's floating base and then shielded the top floor of the Infinite Group. Next, it was time to attend to serious matters, which were not to be spoken of to outsiders. Gu Qijue did this partly because he desired the snow-condensing goddess's body, and partly because he wanted to have his own offspring. He already had 2 adopted sons and 1 adopted daughter, but he didn't have any biological children yet. Logically, Jai Tianyu and Jai Yinyu, whom he favored the most, should have conceived a dragon seed. However, both of them were transformed from heavenly moon pythons, although one became a demigod and the other an emperor. It was still difficult for them to conceive. As for Victoria, Moon Goddess, and Celestial Zither, some hadn't been favored yet, while others had been favored infrequently. Therefore, like Jai Tianyu and Jai Yinyu, they showed no signs of bearing him offspring. This time, the snow-condensing goddess was different. Gu Qijue didn't know why. The moment he saw the snow-condensing goddess, he felt that he could easily cooperate with her to produce a dragon prince or a dragon princess. At this moment, the members of the Emperor Star Alliance were still brainstorming important matters, so naturally no one would disturb Gu Qijue's good fortune. At the same time, Victoria, who had gone to the quicksand domain, encountered an incredible event. Victoria was originally working as the head housekeeper for Gu Qijue in the Infinite Group's floating base. After all, for the matter of creating gods, Gu Qijue would at most involve a few of his wives. However, after the Quicksand Domain's exploration team discovered an ancient ruin, Victoria went to investigate. Upon arriving there, she discovered that this ancient ruin was a palace from an unknown era. The incredible thing she encountered was a broken mirror that automatically restored itself after she appeared, and she herself was sucked into this demonic mirror divine artifact. She gained a set of platinum-colored Valkyrie soft armor, and a divine artifact rapier appeared in her hand. Her body, furthermore, began to cultivate uncontrollably. She seemed to be blessed with immense fortune, encountering an extremely special opportunity. 187, Unexpected Emergency, Rescue Victoria. After Gu Qijue and Snow-Condensing Goddess finished their in-depth exchange, both parties gained a deeper understanding of each other. Gu Qijue learned more about the charms of Snow-Condensing Goddess, while Snow-Condensing Goddess became aware of Gu Qijue's power and dominance. As Gu Qijue left the CEO's office area, he received bad news. This bad news came from the Quicksand Domain. Gu Qijue had not visited the Flying Eagle Domain and the Quicksand Domain since the Emperor Star Alliance took control. He didn't expect that his first trip to the Quicksand Domain would be to save his wife. Victoria, one of his consorts and a demigod, was trapped in a divine artifact magic mirror in the Quicksand Domain. Gu Qijue initially started assigning numbers to all his wives, beginning with clan chief Jai Tianyu. But after experiencing the charms of his many wives, Gu Qijue realized that he couldn't show favoritism and there shouldn't be such a thing as numbering. From now on, whether it was Jai Tianyu, Jai Yinyu, or Moon Goddess, and Snow-Condensing Goddess, etc., they would all be uniformly called wife. He must treat them equally. without distinction between wife and concubine. The moment Gu Qijue heard that Victoria was trapped, he headed to the quicksand domain. Even with his harem growing daily, he would not forget old loves for new ones. Crack, he raised his hand and tore it casually, creating a spatial passage. Not long after, Gu Qijue saw the divine artifact magic mirror that had trapped Victoria. There were also many Infinite Group employees and people from other forces of the Emperor Star Alliance here. After Gu Qijue appeared, his subordinate Lai Kongwu, whom he hadn't seen in a while, immediately stepped forward. "Greetings, Your Excellency, the head of state." The rest of the people also stepped forward at this time. "Greetings, Your Excellency. The head of state," Gu Qijue said, "dispense with the formalities." Upon hearing this, everyone straightened up. Then Gu Qijue continued to look at Lai Kongwu and asked, "Victoria is trapped in this magic mirror?" He stared at the magic mirror for a long time, but he saw nothing in it. Lai Kongwu said solemnly, "Yes, Your Excellency, the head of state." After demigod Victoria entered the magic mirror, she completely lost contact with the outside world. "We still haven't been able to contact demigod Victoria." Gu Qijue frowned. "Can others enter this magic mirror?" Lai Kongwu nodded. "They can enter. But everyone who entered the magic mirror has also lost contact." Gu Qijue hesitated for a moment and said, "I, the head of state, will go in and see." Lai Kongwu was startled. "Your Excellency, the head of state. Since you are here, let your subordinate go in and check the situation." Gu Qijue shook his head. "Since Victoria is trapped, it's useless for you to go in." With that, he no longer hesitated and approached the mirror. The next moment, he was sucked into the magic mirror. After a dizzying spin, Gu Qijue appeared in the mirror world. Then he understood why others who entered the mirror world couldn't get out, because all these people were already dead. If Lai Kongwu had also come in just now, he too would have met a dead end. Lai Kongwu's current strength was only that of a quasi-emperor, and a bunch of quasi-emperors had already died in this place. Seeing so many people dead here, Gu Qijue couldn't help but worry about Victoria. Although he had many beautiful women in his harem, he was not mentally prepared for his harem to be one less. After searching this area, Gu Qijue breathed a sigh of relief. Although many people had died here, Victoria was unharmed. As for the other employees, their relatives would receive the highest standard of death benefits. After all, these employees died this time while searching for Victoria. After traveling through this area for a long time, Gu Qijue finally found Victoria. When he saw Victoria, he was somewhat astonished. How did his blonde wife turn into a white-haired girl? Although this was something that would delight a two-dimensional fan, he didn't want Victoria to suffer any mishap. Victoria also sensed Gu Qijue's arrival, and she immediately asked. Gu Qijue was completely relieved when he saw that Victoria was conscious and appeared unharmed. Then he said, "Lai Kongwu said you were trapped in the magic mirror, so I rushed to save you. Why have you changed your appearance?" Victoria originally had long golden wavy hair and looked like a mature woman in her mid-20s. Now it was different. She was a lively white-haired girl of 17 or 18. After Gu Qijue asked, Victoria immediately said, "Your Excellency, the head of state, I have received the legacy of a god." Victoria was a demigod before, but now she was already a god. Gu Qijue then noticed that Victoria's aura had just reached the divine rank. After speaking about receiving the god's legacy, Victoria continued, however, to get out of the mirror world. "I need to fight my way to the temple in the core area." As she spoke, Victoria pointed to a distant spot. A building could vaguely be seen in that direction. Gu Qijue nodded. "I haven't seen any monster corpses nearby. What kind of monsters are here?" He had only seen the fallen subordinates before, but not any monsters in this place. Victoria quickly mentioned a type of monster Gu Qijue hadn't expected. "The monsters here are a type of evil spirit energy body. After killing these evil spirit energy bodies, one can obtain some pure energy. The evil spirit energy bodies in this area have been cleared by me. The closer one gets to the temple, the stronger the evil spirit energy bodies become. I was originally planning to clear out some evil spirit energy bodies in the surrounding area before continuing forward." After she finished speaking, Gu Qijue said, "I'll guard your Dao, you can fight your way through, and I'll help if you encounter danger." Victoria nodded, then walked with Gu Qijue towards the direction of the Sword God Temple. They hadn't walked far before Gu Qijue saw an evil spirit energy body. The so-called evil spirit energy body was a blood-red transparent monster. These blood-red transparent monsters were very powerful, all at the peak of demigod. Swish, Victoria's sword light flashed, and an evil spirit energy body was instantly eliminated. After killing this evil spirit energy body, a stream of light indeed flew into Victoria's body. Gu Qijue couldn't help but feel a little regretful. Is there really only this little energy? The energy contained in that stream of light just now was not much different from an infinite crystal stone. The harvest from hunting these monsters was clearly very small. Victoria nodded. Yes. But this energy is very pure and it's all free. Hearing her say that, Gu Qijue could only nod, because what Victoria said was correct, which also made him consider clearing out the surrounding monsters. 188, Sword God Temple, Super God Tier materials. Many grains of sand make a tower, many furs make a robe. Although the energy provided by a single evil spirit energy body is very little, its purity is extremely high. As long as one hunts as many evil spirit energy bodies as possible, a large amount of highly pure energy can be obtained. With a casual swing of her sword, Victoria could cleave one, or even 2 or 3, evil spirit energy bodies to death. The energy she gained was far more than the energy she consumed. After Gu Qijue casually crushed an evil spirit energy body, he discovered even more. The stream of light left behind after an evil spirit energy body's death wasn't truly for replenishing energy, but rather for a faint evolutionary effect. This evolutionary effect was extremely subtle. Even with his strong perception, he could only vaguely sense it. No wonder Victoria hadn't noticed. Gu Qijue immediately said to Victoria, "The energy stream of light produced after the death of an evil spirit energy body contains an extremely faint power of evolution. Later, we must kill as many of these evil spirit energy bodies as possible." Victoria was very surprised after hearing this. However, she quickly nodded, "Okay, Your Excellency. The head of state. The power of evolution is an extremely precious and rare power. The journey of life's evolution is endless and without end. There are many things that can make ordinary beings evolve, but not many that can make even demigods or gods evolve. Therefore, the most precious part of those energy streams of light is the evolutionary energy they contain." Next, Gu Qijue began clearing the evil spirit energy bodies around Victoria. If Victoria encountered trouble, he could arrive instantly. If Victoria didn't encounter any unexpected situations, he could progress together with Victoria. The two continued forward, clearing evil spirit energy bodies as they went. After a while, Victoria also encountered a god-rank evil spirit energy body that she couldn't defeat. Gu Qijue's figure, after entering his second combat form, instantly appeared beside her. Victoria earnestly reminded him, "Your Excellency, the head of state, this evil spirit energy body is very powerful." Gu Qijue nodded, "It's fine, I'll deal with it." Although he was far away just now, his perception had been continuously covering this space. He had already witnessed Victoria's battle with this blood-colored transparent evil spirit. Roar! The evil spirit energy body let out an angry roar, and a blood-colored claw that tore through the heavens and earth slammed towards Gu Qijue. There was clearly a huge difference between god-rank evil spirits and demigod-rank evil spirits. Boom! Facing the god-rank evil spirit's claw, Gu Qijue did not dodge or retreat but met it head-on, throwing a punch. Rumble! This punch pierced through clouds and shattered rocks. Shaking the heavens and earth, a punch and a claw collided fiercely. Gu Qijue's second combat form initially could only boost his strength to the quasi-god level, as he greatly fused and refined the blood dragon god's power within him. Now, his second combat form had also entered the divine rank, even capable of crushing ordinary divine ranks. His earth-shattering punch now instantly blasted the opposing god-rank evil thought body into pieces. A stream of light also instantly flew into his body. The subsequent god-rank evil spirits were very difficult for Victoria to deal with, and were basically resolved by Gu Qijue. After beating a god-rank evil spirit to the brink of death, Gu Qijue said to Victoria, "Come and kill it." Victoria immediately stepped forward upon hearing this, thrusting her sword. However, at this moment, a scene neither Gu Qijue nor Victoria expected occurred. Gu Qijue had Victoria finish it off, wanting her to obtain the god-rank evolutionary stream of light. As a result, the evolutionary stream of light did not fly towards Victoria, but instead flew towards Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue immediately gave a helpless smile. "It seems this method won't work. You can only rely on your own strength to hunt evil spirit energy bodies." Victoria nodded, I'll go kill the surrounding evil spirits later." Gu Qijue shook his head. "I'll take you there now and kill all the evil spirits you can clear first." Victoria quickly thanked him after hearing this. "Thank you, Your Excellency, the head of state." Each time, Gu Qijue tore open the void realm, taking Victoria to quickly shuttle through it. Before long, the evil spirit energy bodies that Victoria could defeat were all swept away and killed. As for the remaining evil spirit energy bodies, there was nothing Victoria could do. These evil spirit energy bodies were all god rank, she simply couldn't defeat them. If Gu Qijue hadn't entered the demonic mirror world, she would have clearly been trapped there this time. At first, Gu Qijue, after undergoing half-dragon transformation, went on a rampage. However, as he gradually approached the Sword God Hall, he encountered god-rank evil spirits of roughly god-rank 5. This caused Gu Qijue to directly enter the blood dragon god state, beginning to clear the area. A massive blood dragon continuously swept and tore through the heavens and earth, wreaking havoc. The surrounding evil spirit energy bodies were, of course, no match for the super god rank blood dragon god. Before long, the numerous evil spirit energy bodies were completely annihilated by Gu Qijue. After eliminating all these evil spirit energy bodies, Gu Qijue led Victoria into the Sword God Hall. Although this place was named Sword God Hall, there were no swords here, only a broken sculpture and a large amount of black stones. Victoria looked at the surrounding black stones and curiously asked, "Your Excellency, the head of state, what are these black stones?" Gu Qijue, of course, didn't know what these black stones were, but the Infinite Engine did. Black Saint Stone, super god rank materials, shattered state. After receiving the Infinite Engine's information, Gu Qijue couldn't help but be ecstatic. Although the demonic mirror trapped Victoria, it also helped Victoria break through to the god rank. Not only that, at the exit of the demonic mirror, there were actually many super god rank materials, black saint stones, albeit shattered. Gu Qijue immediately said, "These are all super god rank materials, but they are all broken, or rather, scraps of super god rank materials. Even so, they can be used to forge the most top-tier divine artifacts. Let's take all the black saint stones here." Victoria nodded upon hearing this and immediately helped Gu Qijue collect them. After the two had collected most of the black saint stones here, the surrounding space began to shatter little by little. Gu Qijue could only say, "Hurry up, don't bother with what you can't take." For the two to exit the demonic mirror space, they needed to use a teleportation array not far away. Although the teleportation array was not broken, the space here had clearly reached its breaking point. Gu Qijue and Victoria could only speed up their collection. As the space shattered faster and faster, the two finally finished collecting the black saint stones. Gu Qijue didn't hesitate. He immediately embraced Victoria and stepped onto the teleportation array. A teleportation light soon enveloped Gu Qijue and Victoria. The next moment, their figures appeared before Lai Kangwu, and the demonic mirror behind them completely shattered. 189, war is breaking out. The 5 Domains Alliance launches a counterattack. "Your Excellency, the head of state, are you all right?" Lai Kangwu immediately asked upon seeing Gu Qijue appear. Gu Qijue nodded. "We are fine, but the others have died in battle." Regardless of whether the other party was an Infinite Group employee or not, their families will receive the highest possible compensation. "I'll leave this matter to you, make sure it's handled properly." Lai Kangwu replied solemnly, "Understood, Your Excellency." The head of state, Gu Qijue, then led everyone back to the South Heng Domain. Now, the South Heng Domain has become the base of Emperor Star. The major groups and various forces of Emperor Star are all preparing for the final decisive battle. Time flew by, and in a blink of an eye, the decisive battle between the Emperor Star Alliance and the remaining cultivator forces of the Southeast Continent Plate was upon them. The strategic deployment for this decisive battle was jointly discussed by Vice Head Jai Tianyu, Vice Head of State Dai Qi, and the leaders of other Emperor Star forces. Gu Qijue had nothing to add to this strategic deployment. Because this was the final decisive battle where both sides put everything on the line, it was either their death or his. Against such a backdrop, there wasn't much room for strategic maneuvering. What Gu Qijue and everyone in the Emperor Star Alliance didn't expect was that this time, the 5 Domains Alliance didn't hold back. Instead, they launched a preemptive strike before the Emperor Star Alliance's decided battle date. Woo! Piercing alarm sounds echoed madly throughout the South Heng Domain. Aircrafts soared into the sky, and powerhouses of the Emperor Star Alliance rose up at this moment. The Emperor Star Alliance's approximately 200 billion regular combat troops and approximately 100 billion elite troops were also rapidly assembling. On the Emperor Star Alliance's side, most of the combat personnel and even more non-combat personnel felt a bit of panic. After all, previously it was always the Emperor Star Alliance that, with the momentum of thunder and lightning, launched attacks on other forces. This time, the 5 Domains Alliance came prepared. and an overwhelming army of cultivators suddenly launched a fierce assault on the Emperor Star Alliance. Many aircrafts were just taking off when they were directly blasted apart in midair by powerful magical artifacts. Gu Qijue's judgment was correct. At this stage of the war, both sides were playing for keeps. Most of the cultivators of the Five Domains Alliance had already put themselves in a do-or-die situation, bringing out all their trump cards to engage in battle. Facing the sudden attack from the Five Domains Alliance, Gu Qijue did not panic. Soon, the voice of head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star resounded throughout the South Heng Domain. Emperor Star's 100 billion elite troops and 200 billion regular combat troops. Listen to my command. The 100 billion elite troops immediately engage the enemy according to the original plan. The 200 billion regular combat troops follow closely behind and act according to the plan. Non-combat personnel immediately enter a safe place for shelter. All gods, demigods, great emperors, and quasi-emperors, come with me to battle. After Gu Qijue finished speaking, he charged first towards the evil gods of the Five Domains Alliance. According to their previous intelligence, the Five Domains Alliance only had 4 evil gods. But the actual situation was not so. The Five Domains Alliance actually possessed a total of 8 divine-rank combat powers. The 4 evil gods were, of course, those 4 from the evil god palace. The remaining 4 divine-rank combat powers were gods who had come as reinforcements from other places. The gods of the Emperor Star Alliance were not as numerous as those of the Five Domains Alliance. Currently, only the Moon Goddess, Goddess Tianqin, Goddess Victoria, Snow Condensing Goddess, Gu Qidong Gu Qijue's adopted son, and Gu Qijue himself were divine rank in the Emperor Star Alliance. The divine rank combat power of the Emperor Star Alliance initially held a numerical advantage. But now, that was no longer the case. They had fallen into a disadvantage of 6 against 8. However, after the 6 divine rank combat powers of the Emperor Star Alliance and the 8 divine rank combat powers of the Five Domains Alliance appeared above the battlefield, they did not immediately start fighting. From the Five Domains Alliance, a god stepped forward to speak with Gu Qijue. I am Bai Gongzhai, Vice Alliance Leader of the South Continent Alliance. Chief Gu, I've long admired your reputation. After Bai Gongzhai finished speaking, Gu Qijue also stepped out from the crowd and came to face Bai Gongzhai. He glanced at Bai Gongzhai and said indifferently, the Emperor Star Alliance and the South Continent Alliance seem to have no connection. Upon hearing this, Bai Gongzhai nodded, then said, the Emperor Star Alliance has no conflict with the South Continent Alliance, the Central Continent Alliance, or the East Continent Alliance. However, the actions of the Emperor Star Alliance have made us feel a crisis. The Emperor Star Alliance's actions perfectly align with the 4 characters aggressive as fire. We had no choice but to strike first. This time, representatives from the East Continent, South Continent, and Central Continent have all come. We hope to form a peace agreement with the Emperor Star Alliance. If the Emperor Star Alliance agrees to cease hostilities and coexist peacefully with the Five Domains Alliance, then we can retreat our troops now. At this point, Bai Gongzhai changed his tone and continued to speak. Otherwise, the cultivator forces of the East Continent, the cultivator forces of the South Continent, and the cultivator forces of the Central Continent, as well as the persecuted cultivator forces of the Southeast Continent, will form a 4-party cultivator alliance to crusade against the Emperor Star Alliance. Bai Gongzhai was clearly trying to force Gu Qijue to agree to a humiliating pact under duress. His previous words were righteous and grandstanding, but in reality, things were not like that. This was a war for survival. The Emperor Star Alliance either didn't take the first step, or they had to steadfastly go all the way to the end. Even if the Emperor Star Alliance hadn't taken the first preemptive step, once the Shenhuang continent discovered the location of Emperor Star one day, Emperor Star would very likely suffer. Since that was the case, for self-preservation they could only strike first. Moreover, the East Continent Alliance, the South Continent Alliance, and the Central Continent Alliance were not so benevolent. Their willingness to help the cultivator forces of the Southeast Continent was because they didn't want to see another Southeast Continent Alliance emerge on the Southeast Continent. The current problem wasn't just the emergence of a Southeast Continent Alliance, but the emergence of an even more powerful and cohesive force. After the Emperor Star Alliance completed the unification of the Southeast Continent with a single command from head of Emperor Star Gu Qijue. At that time, the power of the entire Southeast Continent would pose a threat to the surrounding cultivator forces. Of course, Gu Qijue could not sign the pact under duress proposed by Bai Gongzhai. Gu Qijue's subsequent words also exceeded the imagination of Bai Gongzhai and all the gods present. I will not agree to this pact under duress. Not only that, but the Emperor Star Alliance will, in the near future, reign over the Shenhuang continent. The chaotic situation of the 9 continental plates of the Shenhuang continent fighting amongst themselves and in continuous warfare will be completely ended by me and the Emperor Star Alliance. The Shenhuang continent will usher in its unprecedented first great unification. All sentient beings who recognize this Tao will be friends of me and the Emperor Star Alliance. Those who do not recognize this sacred Tao are enemies of me and the Emperor Star Alliance. These people will have only one outcome: death. Thanks to Black Hole for the 100,000 book coins reward. Thank you. 190. The Vermilion Bird Starfield. A star cluster-level civilization emerges. Gu Qijue could not possibly agree to Bai Gongzhai's ultimatum, so naturally their conversation was fruitless. And only battle remained. Bai Gongzhai shook his head, then retreated. Before leaving, he left one last message. Chief Gu, you made the most erroneous decision at the wrong time and wrong place, thus triggering this erroneous war. Gu Qijue was not angered by Bai Gongzhai's words. Instead, he calmly stated, the final facts will prove that Shenhuang continent will move towards great unification, and those who obstruct this trend are on the wrong path. The price they must pay for their mistakes is utter annihilation. Gu Qijue and Bai Gongzhai engaged in a war of words, neither yielding to the other. The combat forces of both sides quickly arrayed themselves on various battlefields and began fighting. The Emperor Star Alliance now has 100 billion elite combat troops and 200 billion regular combat troops. Although they were caught off guard by the 5 Domains Alliance, under Gu Qijue's command, deployment, and oversight, the Emperor Star Alliance's combat forces restored order in the shortest time possible and began to counterattack. On the Emperor Star side, apart from Gu Qijue and the other 6 god-rank combatants, everyone else was drawn into this life-and-death decisive battle. This battle will determine who will be the true master of the Southeast continent region in the future. If the Emperor Star led by Gu Qijue wins, then Gu Qijue will become the sole dominator of this vast territory. But if they fail, eternal damnation awaits them. War is cruel. And this war is destined to be even crueler. Neither side held anything back. Both were fighting desperately. On this day, it's either the fish dies or the net breaks. In the direction of the 4 Continents Alliance, Bai Gongzhai and the other 8 god-rank combatants also did not act rashly. According to their initial intelligence, the Emperor Star Alliance should have 3 or fewer god-rank combatants. This would allow them to quickly severely damage the Emperor Star Alliance's god-rank combatants with a 2-fold numerical advantage. This war would also be entirely dominated by them. But Bai Gongzhai and the other god-rank experts racked their brains and still couldn't understand how the Emperor Star Alliance suddenly had 6 god-rank combatants. Therefore, Bai Gongzhai and the others did not dare to act rashly and had to await the outcome of the conventional battlefield. If they won on the conventional battlefield, they would gain the initiative, and the choice would be in their hands. Bai Gongzhai was waiting, and Gu Qijue was also waiting. However, unlike Bai Gongzhai, he was currently more focused on training troops, providing space for experts to grow and temper themselves. The Emperor Star Alliance developed very rapidly, and many great emperors, quasi-emperors, and even some half-gods lacked combat experience. For the Emperor Star Alliance to better rule Shenhuang continent in the future, everyone needed to continuously undergo trials and temper themselves for improvement. Snow-condensing goddess's figure now appeared beside Gu Qijue. She parted her lips slightly and softly asked, Your Excellency, the head of state, how should we proceed with the upcoming god-rank battle? Celestial Zither, Victoria, and Luna all wanted to know the answer to this question. They were still at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. Gu Qijue casually said, Each of you will hold back 1 god-rank enemy, and I will take on 3. His tactical arrangement was very simple. He possessed the powerful trump card of the 4th form Blood Dragon God, capable of unleashing terrifying super god-rank combat power. He was invincible on this battlefield. At the same time, a fleet appeared in the Void Realm, incredibly far from the Emperor Star headquarters and Shenhuang continent. This fleet possessed numerous giant starships, and the leading giant starship even had 5 god-rank experts and 1 super god-rank expert. That super god-rank expert, named Lu Yuge, was the commander of this star fleet. The cosmic region where the Emperor Star headquarters and Shenhuang continent are located is within the desolate star system of the Vermilion Bird Star Domain. The desolate star system is a massive star system like the Milky Way, containing countless stars and planets. And the Vermilion Bird star domain is composed of countless star systems like the Desolate star system. The Vermilion Bird star domain, also known as the Vermilion Bird star cluster, and the Vermilion Bird Empire, its dominator, is a star cluster-level civilization. A star cluster-level civilization means they have extremely high control over the resources and energy of the entire star cluster, as well as all intelligent life within it. The fleet led by Lu Qijue was merely an exploration fleet, not an attack fleet. Even as just an exploration fleet, it had 1 super god rank and 5 peak god rank experts stationed. Their flagship, the starship Blaze, was equipped with the Blaze Planet Destroyer cannon, capable of instantly killing a god rank with a single shot. Other starships, while not possessing such strong combat capabilities, could still threaten divine rank beings. Lu Qijue had never been to this star domain before, and other commanders of the Vermilion Bird Empire fleet would not come to this place either. It was too barren, devoid of any valuable resources, and no intelligent life had ever been discovered here. But this time, Lu Qijue had a sudden idea to patrol this area and discovered something interesting. Quintina, Lu Qijue's assistant, quickly handed him an analysis report. She also said, "Your Excellency, Commander, although it's hard to believe, your judgment is correct. From the analysis report, behind the Great Rift, there appear to be 2 civilizations, one large and one small. One of these civilizations should have mastered space jump technology. We detected some spatial disturbances left by their crude space jumps." After Quintina finished speaking, laughter immediately erupted in the captain's cabin, filling the entire room with cheerful air. Because such space jumps would leave traces along the way, making it easy to trace back and find their coordinates in the universe. Lu Qijue, however, did not laugh, but showed a hint of curiosity. He calmly said, "To be able to master this level of technology under severely scarce resources is already quite impressive. Currently, our Vermilion Bird star cluster is engaged in a star cluster-level war with the Qianqi star cluster. Since they are also developing and multiplying in the Vermilion Bird star cluster, they are a part of the Vermilion Bird star cluster. We will construct a stable space jump channel for them, allowing their powerful individuals to enter the broader cosmic space to seek opportunities for growth." Lu Qijue only said half of that. The other half was to send the experts of Shenhuang Continent and Emperor Star to the front lines of the battlefield. Since they were also part of the Vermilion Bird star cluster, they needed to fight for the Vermilion Bird star cluster. Going to the war zone of a star cluster-level civilization would easily lead to obtaining advanced resources, but it would also easily lead to an untimely death. 191, a fierce final battle, the War of the Gods has broken out. At this moment, Gu Qijue and Bai Gongzhai's group, of course, did not know that a massive fleet was already on its way. Gu Qijue had received the Blood Dragon God's legacy and also knew about the Golden Dragon Emissary. Therefore, he understood that beyond Emperor Star and Shenhuang Continent, there existed other advanced civilizations. Emperor Star and Shenhuang Continent were currently between a stellar-level civilization and a galaxy-level civilization. They could collect resources around stars and utilize stellar energy to a great extent, but they had not yet controlled the entire desolate star system and collected resources throughout it. Emperor Star failed to achieve this step because its territory was too small and its location too remote. After developing to a certain extent, they were constrained by resources. It was only with great difficulty that they found Shenhuang Continent as a neighbor. Shenhuang Continent did not become a galaxy-level civilization because its resources were so rich that there was no need to develop technology. At this moment, neither Gu Qijue nor Bai Gongzhai's side was considering such distant matters. Both sides were currently focused on the combat situation of their conventional forces. On Emperor Star's side, demigod Daikui, Dao Taihuang, Jai Yinyu, Gu Yang's, and demigod Bai Qingshan, among others, all performed exceptionally well. Not only them, but Gu Qijue's adopted son, Gu Yinling, was also slaughtering all in his path. On the battlefield, Gu Yinling wielded 2 silver lightning spears, charging left and right, sweeping away all opposition. Whoosh, whoosh, from Gu Yinling's hands. 2 lightning spears suddenly thrust out. The left lightning spear impaled 2 great emperors like candied hawthorns. The right lightning spear, meanwhile, killed a demigod expert with a single thrust. Behind Gu Yinling were Gu Qijue's adopted daughter, Gu Little Fish, and young Miss Lan Zai of the Infinite Group. These 2, under the protection of Infinite Group experts like Heaven's Punishment, were also continuously charging and fighting. Gu Little Fish was very pleased with her adopted older brother. Gu Qijue's battle had not yet begun, and Gu Qidong had been called away by Gu Qijue. so she could only watch Gu Yinling's performance. The elites of the Emperor Star Academy were also nearby. Jai Shang and Ape Emperor's group all watched Gu Yinling with shock. "Young Lord is so strong?" Ape Emperor couldn't help but exclaim, watching Gu Yinling sweep through the army like a whirlwind. Gu Yinling earned the title of Young Lord partly because he was Gu Qijue's adopted son, and partly because he was as powerful as Gu Qijue. Both were prodigies, invincible among their peers and capable of fighting above their rank. Jai Shang nodded upon hearing this. Mentor Yinling is indeed stronger than before. Compared to the title of Young Lord, Jai Shang still preferred to call Gu Yinling mentor. Because Gu Yinling was currently the chief mentor of the Emperor Star Academy, and he might remain in this position for a long time to come. Lan Zai followed behind Gu Yinling, fighting for a while, then flew over to Jai Shang and the others, saying, "Let's go fight on other battlefields. Here, they'll only leave us some minor enemies to deal with. While this is very safe, we won't be able to improve at all." Jai Shang nodded in agreement. "I think so too, but we can leave, you probably can't." Lan Zai was Gu Qijue's younger sister, the young miss of the Infinite Group. Even on the battlefield, she had Infinite Group experts protecting her. The experts secretly protecting her would not allow her to go to overly dangerous places. Lan Zai heard this and said, "Let's choose some enemies suitable for us. As long as it's not too outrageous, it should be fine." Ape Emperor and Cute Treasure immediately agreed. When Gu Little Fish saw that they were preparing to go to other battlefields, Little Mermaid also immediately came to join the fun. She and Jai Shang's group had pretty much become familiar with each other and had integrated into this small circle. Although she was of imperial rank strength, Jai Shang and the others did not stop her from following. Above the 9 heavens, Gu Qijue was also paying attention here. Seeing Lan Zai and the others leave Heaven's Punishment's protection, he did not stop them. He had never intended to raise Lan Zai and the others as hothouse flowers. His attention, of course, was not entirely focused on the Infinite Group's people. He was now the head of Emperor Star, and everyone in the Emperor Star Alliance was his subject. After watching for a moment, Gu Qijue felt greatly reassured. Victoria also said beside Gu Qijue, "Apart from having higher morale than the previous cultivation forces and a numerical advantage, the 5 Domains Alliance has no other changes." Gu Qijue nodded. "Their high morale is brought by the 8 divine rank powerhouses from the 4 continents. Once we achieve victory on the divine rank battlefield, their morale will quickly collapse in a very short time." Victoria did not ask if they could achieve victory on the divine rank battlefield, because she knew about Gu Qijue's blood dragon god state. In necessary circumstances, Gu Qijue could clearly unleash super god rank power and join the battle. On the 4 continents alliance side, Bei Gongzhai was utterly disappointed with their conventional combat forces. Not just Bei Gongzhai, but all other divine rank powerhouses felt the same way. Dai Sheng even lost the desire to continue watching. These wastes have fought against the Emperor Star Alliance for so long and haven't made any progress. It seems we can only step in and completely end this battle. Bei Gongzhai heard Dai Sheng's words, but he did not make an immediate decision. Instead, he said, "What do you all think?" Besides Dai Sheng and himself, there were 6 other divine beings here, and these 6 divine beings did not fully obey his commands. Whether or not to start the decisive battle early, they could only discuss it. Zun Feng heard this and said sinisterly, "The 7 of you go hold back the 6 on the other side. I will slaughter all the demigods, imperial rank, and quasi-emperors of Emperor Star. Those mere ants?" Zun Feng was originally an evil god, and his methods were very unscrupulous. If Gu Qijue and the other 6 truly couldn't stop evil god Zun Feng, then Emperor Star's conventional combat forces would definitely be wiped out by Zun Feng. However, Dai Sheng disagreed with Zun Feng's proposal. "There's no need to kill these ants, they are more useful alive than dead. After killing the 6 divine ranks on the other side, these ants can all be enslaved and used by us." After Dai Sheng finished speaking, the other divine ranks all nodded. They were still very interested in the technology of the Emperor Star Alliance. They hadn't developed technology in the past, but after enslaving the beings of the Emperor Star Alliance, they could directly seize Emperor Star's technological achievements. Zun Feng immediately said, "In that case, let's fight. We are 8 against 6. 5 of us will each hold back one of the opposing divine ranks. The remaining 3 will first kill the head of the Emperor Star Alliance. Once Gu Qijue dies, the other divine ranks and Emperor Star's conventional combat forces will all collapse." Bei Gongzhai nodded. "Then let's fight." The other 7 also spoke in succession, "Fight," as their voices fell. They transformed into 8 streaks of light and charged towards Gu Qijue and the 6 others. 192. Completely transformed into a dragon. He slayed gods one after another. Gu Qijue had already seen that these guys couldn't sit still anymore. As Bei Gongzhai and the other 8 charged forward, he slowly said, "Kill," as his voice fell. Gu Qidong excitedly transformed into a blood dragon, letting out a sky-piercing roar. Roar! The members of the Emperor Star Alliance and the Four Continents Alliance also began to pay attention to the situation above the 9 heavens at this moment. As the battle progressed to this point, the strong cultivators from both sides indeed erupted in a god war. Roar! A dragon roar echoed, and Gu Qijue transformed into his second combat form, facing only 3 divine rank cultivators. His second combat form was already sufficient. Although Victoria and the others were already divine rank, they also needed to be tempered. Gu Qijue didn't know at this moment that Lu Yu's fleet was rushing to this place. Otherwise, he might have directly unleashed his blood dragon god state, using the powerful strength of the super god rank to slaughter Bei Gongzhai and the others. Boom! After the god war erupted, earth-shattering and deafening fluctuations continuously spread out. The divine rank powerhouses of both sides possessed incredibly terrifying strength. Moon Goddess and Snow Condensing Goddess were evenly matched with their opponents. Goddess Tianqin and Victoria, on the other hand, were suppressed by the opposing divine rank powerhouses. Gu Qidong's side was quite remarkable. He, a peak demigod, was actually gaining an advantage against a divine rank powerhouse. This showed the strength of his combat power and the immensity of his potential. Naturally, Gu Qijue's location was even more of a spectacle. Dai Sheng, Zun Feng, and Xiui's, the 3 evil gods, had already been stunned by Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue, in the end, was only at the demigod realm. Although he possessed god-rank strength after activating his second combat form, Dai Sheng and the other 2 believed it was a temporary boost, like pulling up seedlings to help them grow. But this temporarily boosted strength of his was terrifyingly formidable. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Gu Qijue, holding his blood spear, swept it continuously. Dai Sheng and the other 2 could only desperately resist. Around Dai Sheng evil god, there were M-A-N-Y Chinese letter, shattered stone blocks, condensed from divine power. When Gu Qijue's blood spear suddenly thrust out, the shattered stone blocks in front of him would quickly condense to block it. Boom! The shattered stone blocks, which were already shattered, were effortlessly pulverized by Gu Qijue's casual spear thrust. Dai Sheng evil god could only hastily use his divine power to continue condensing shattered stones. This time, the shattered stones he condensed transformed in a very short time, becoming a stone golem sculpture. Then, this stone golem sculpture also charged towards Gu Qijue at an extremely fast speed. Clang! Gu Qijue's blood spear thrust out again, and the stone golem was easily sent flying by him. When the 2 collided, the earth-shattering, sky-piercing terrifying sound also sent chills down the spines of the forces fighting below. Zun Feng evil god and Xiui's evil god were not idle either. They had been launching fierce attacks on Gu Qijue since the beginning of the battle. Zun Feng evil god continuously unleashed terrifying wind blades capable of shattering space. When these numerous wind blades struck, Gu Qijue didn't need to bother with them at all. The twin dragons growing behind him directly spat out wind and thunder, shattering the numerous wind blades. Xiui's evil god's attack method was to control water elements. His ability was the most bizarre. Gu Qijue had to constantly divide his attention to suppress the water elements within his body. Otherwise, if he was careless, the water elements within him would completely evaporate. Even an existence of his level had water elements in his body. Without water elements, he would turn into a dried corpse. However, Xiui's evil god's attack method, though very bizarre, Xiui's evil god was, after all, only god rank, not super god rank. Although he could control water elements, it was easy to break his methods. He just needed to suppress the water elements within his own body, preventing them from being controlled by Xiui's evil god. Dai Sheng evil god saw Xiui's evil god leisurely using his methods from the side and couldn't help but furiously say, "Xiui's, your ability has no effect on him. Attack directly." Xiui's evil god also had direct combat capabilities, but in his opinion, interfering with Gu Qijue from the side would have a better effect. Unfortunately, although his ability was powerful, it couldn't be effective against Gu Qijue. In such a situation, he could only join the battle head-on. Xiui's evil god's idea was actually correct, although he couldn't do anything to Gu Qijue. With him interfering from the side, Gu Qijue couldn't fully unleash his strength. After Shuai's evil god joined the battle directly, Gu Qijue didn't hesitate and immediately made Shuai's evil god his primary target. For this, he even directly entered the third form of complete dragon transformation. A majestic and awe-inspiring black dragon, dominating the heavens and earth, instantly appeared. Shuai's evil god, holding a water sword, happened to be charging over, meeting Gu Qijue head-on. He clearly hadn't expected that Gu Qijue still had a hidden trump card unused, even after fighting until now, and this powerful trump card of Gu Qijue's could be unleashed in an instant. A huge dragon claw suddenly slammed down. This strike caught Shuai's evil god off guard. His entire body's divine power began to circulate frantically. A massive water sphere completely enveloped him. Boom! Gu Qijue's claw was incredibly powerful. Even though Shuai's evil god was frantically circulating his entire body's divine power, continuously pouring it into the water sphere. But at the moment the dragon claw and the water sphere collided, Gu Qijue still crushed the water sphere into powder with overwhelming force. After shattering the water sphere, his claw continued its unstoppable momentum, engulfing Shuai's evil god. Ah! A desperate and unwilling scream echoed at this moment. In his third form, the completely transformed Gu Qijue possessed the terrifying strength of peak god rank, which Shuai's evil god simply couldn't withstand. Bang! A huge energy fluctuation suddenly exploded above the 9 heavens. Shuai's evil god's body was also shattered into powder by Gu Qijue's claw. A god crystal core appeared in midair and was casually collected by Gu Qijue. God crystal cores were good things. One god crystal core, combined with other materials, could create a deity. After Shuai's evil god was eliminated, Dai Sheng evil god and Zun Feng evil god, with GREAT Chinese letter, tacit understanding, immediately chose to flee. Gu Qijue naturally couldn't let them escape. Since you've come, leave your god crystal cores before you go. Upon hearing this, Dai Sheng evil god begged for mercy while running. Chief Gu, spare others when you can. We will leave the southeast continent immediately and never return. So why kill us all? We and Dai Sheng evil god couldn't continue speaking. Gu Qijue's massive dragon head opened its mouth and spat. Immediately, flames that incinerated the sky transformed the area around Dai Sheng evil god into a sea of fire, completely engulfing him. 193. A star cluster-class civilization is about to arrive. After the water marsh evil god, Dai Sheng evil god was also burned to ashes by Gu Qijue's heaven-burning flames. A god crystal core quietly floated in the sea of fire. Just as Gu Qijue was about to continue his rampage, he received a notification from the infinite engine in his mind. Warning: a star cluster-level civilization is approaching. Estimated arrival at Shenhuang continent in 29 minutes and 37 seconds. The sudden pop-up surprised Gu Qijue slightly. After inheriting the blood dragon god's legacy, he had some understanding of the outside world. Civilizations are divided into 7 levels: planetary, stellar, galaxy level, star cluster level, super star cluster level, universe, and super universe. Planetary civilizations can only operate on a single planet or its vicinity, having varying degrees of control and transformative power over the entire planet. By extension, one can imagine how terrifying a star cluster-level civilization is. All asteroids, planets, stars, nebulae, galaxies, and so on within that star cluster are merely their backyard. Neither the Emperor Star Alliance nor the Shenhuang continent has the qualifications to challenge a star cluster-level civilization. Both the Emperor Star Alliance and the Shenhuang continent possess the potential of a galaxy-level civilization, but neither has developed into a true galaxy-level civilization. Of course, what surprised Gu Qijue even more was the infinite engine, a special technological product. He had realized long ago that it was a special technological product. However, he still didn't understand what level of civilization the infinite engine's technology belonged to. They knew nothing about the impending visit of a star cluster-level civilization. Yet, the infinite engine could accurately tell him when the star cluster-level civilization would arrive. If even a star cluster-level civilization couldn't detect the infinite engine on him, then at least one thing could be proven. That is, the level of the infinite engine is higher than the technology of a star cluster-level civilization. This is quite remarkable, because above a star cluster-level civilization is a super star cluster-level civilization. In some universes that haven't existed for too long, a super star cluster-level civilization is equivalent to one of the 5 permanent members of the universe. but Gu Qijue vaguely felt that the infinite engines level seemed to be even above a superstar cluster civilization. Of course, he only had this vague feeling, without any concrete evidence. After learning of the impending visit of a star cluster-level civilization, Gu Qijue did not make a big fuss. Instead, he continued in his fully dragonized form, swiftly eliminating the two evil gods, Zun Feng and Hu Liao. With these four evil gods dead, Bei Gongzhai and the others were terrified. They didn't hesitate for a moment and immediately chose to flee decisively. Gu Qijue didn't pursue them. He needed to completely unify the southeast continent plate before the star cluster-level civilization arrived. In his third combat form, Gu Qijue possessed the terrifying combat power of a peak god rank. His majestic and domineering voice spread throughout the entire southeast continent plate. I am head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star. The four evil gods of the evil god palace have all been slain by me. From today onwards, the southeast continent plate will be jointly ruled by me and Emperor Star. There will be no more wars between internal factions here, and all people on this land will usher in a new life. All resources will be utilized to their fullest potential. All living beings on this land will be empowered by the powerful technology of the Emperor Star Alliance. At this point, Gu Qijue changed his tone and said, living beings who do not recognize the Emperor Star Alliance can now leave the southeast continent plate. The Emperor Star Alliance will not prevent them. All intelligent life that remains will become my subjects and receive the protection of this head of state. After Gu Qijue finished speaking, the numerous cultivator forces and a large number of loose cultivators on the southeast continent plate remained motionless. They knew the benefits of a land where internal wars were not allowed. In the past, numerous cultivator forces were constantly at war. Not only that, because the entire southeast continent plate was a scattered mess, it was also very chaotic and lacked order. Now, the entire southeast continent plate is under Gu Qijue's rule. He will clearly bring rules and order to this vast and boundless land. In the past, whoever had the biggest fist could kill and set fires. From now on, everything must comply with regulations and adhere to order. This is an excellent thing for the many cultivators and cultivator forces of the southeast continent. If the southeast continent itself could give birth to a force like the Emperor Star Alliance and achieve great unification, that would naturally be best. However, the various forces on the southeast continent plate have competed for countless tens of thousands of years, and no force has been able to achieve this step. Therefore, allowing the Emperor Star Alliance to accomplish this great and sacred task is not impossible. Above the nine heavens, Gu Qijue was slightly surprised to see such a scene. He had thought that many people would immediately leave the southeast continent plate. It now seems that the numerous cultivators and cultivator forces are all capable of calculating. They clearly all understand that staying brings many benefits, and there's no need to leave at this time. Not only that, after the great unification of the southeast continent plate was completed, the other 8 continental plates also experienced unusual movements. Don't look at the East Continent having something like the East Continent Alliance, but the East Continent Alliance does not represent all forces and cultivators of the East Continent. Instead, it represents the interests of the 9 great families on the East Continent. The biggest difference between the East Continent Plate and the Southeast Continent Plate is that the East Continent has 9 ancient families with legacies spanning over 100,000 years. These 9 great families have always been the dominators of the East Continent. To maintain their dominance, they not only didn't prohibit internal wars, but even instigated them. This was to prevent the emergence of new giants who would share the spoils with them. The situation on the other continental plates was also the same. The reason why everyone was so optimistic about Emperor Star was that Emperor Star was a single force. The entire southeast continent plate was under the rule of the Emperor Star Alliance. The Emperor Star Alliance would obviously not have a situation where it suppressed itself or consumed itself. Moreover, according to news from various channels, if one sincerely submitted to the Emperor Star Alliance, they would be accepted. The most typical example is Old Medicine Emperor, who originally had one foot in the grave. Now, he has transformed into a powerful demigod. As all intelligent life on the southeast continent plate prepared to usher in a new life, the East Continent Alliance, the Central Continent Alliance, and the South Continent Alliance were not prepared to allow the southeast continent plate to experience nirvana. The divine rank experts of the 3 continental alliances quickly gathered, preparing to directly join forces to eliminate the 6 divine rank combat powers of the Emperor Star Alliance. Bai Gongzhai and the others, who had barely escaped earlier, reappeared above the southeast continent. This time, there would be no conventional troop battles but a direct divine war. However, their divine war clearly couldn't proceed. 194, beam particle cannon, one shot. And gods are annihilated. The Shenhuang continent previously had no technology, and the technology of the Emperor Star Alliance had already been an eye-opener for the natives of the Shenhuang continent. But when the three continental alliances held several emergency consultations and gathered a large number of divine rank experts, preparing to attack the Emperor Star Alliance, something that surprised everyone appeared: a gigantic starship, approximately 1/5 the size of the southeast continent plate, appeared out of thin air outside the Shenhuang continent. After Lu Yu's flagship, the Blazing Flame, appeared, it immediately noticed Bai Gongzhai and the others who were at loggerheads, as well as the people from Emperor Star. Bai Gongzhai and his group had very limited knowledge of technology. The people of the Emperor Star Alliance, however, became extremely nervous. They could already tell that there was a huge gap between Emperor Star's technology and the technology of a star cluster-level civilization. Lu Yu's voice soon emanated from the flagship Blazing Flame. I am Lu Yuge, commander of the 19th Exploration Fleet of the Star Cluster-level civilization, the Vermilion Bird Empire. You two quasi-galaxy-level civilizations, cease all warfare immediately. Although Bai Gongzhai and the others were somewhat unconvinced, they did not act rashly. They didn't quite understand what was happening before their eyes. The people of the Emperor Star Alliance were extremely obedient. If technology has several generational gaps, it can lead to an industrial civilization crushing a primitive one. Lu Yuge and his people did not launch an attack directly, and they didn't seem to harbor ill will. Regardless of the other party's objective, negotiations were possible between the two sides. At this moment, they obviously couldn't afford to offend them easily, but there were also divine rank experts who refused to believe this nonsense. Behind Bai Gongzhai, a divine rank expert from the South Continent rose into the air and suddenly threw a punch toward Lu Yuge's flagship. When Lu Yuge and his people saw this, they were naturally ecstatic. They hadn't displayed force immediately because they were worried about causing unnecessary misunderstandings. Now that a divine rank being was actively seeking death, they couldn't be blamed. This divine rank expert from the South Continent was named Long Jai. The reason he attacked was not because he was bored, but because he was ordered to test the capabilities of these outsiders. These outsiders looked formidable, but they might just be silver-plated spears, impressive on the outside but useless in reality. What if they only looked powerful but were actually trash? Then it was very likely a deception orchestrated by the Emperor Star Alliance. The Emperor Star Alliance would use such a trick to avoid the three continental alliances' punitive expedition against them. Divine rank expert Long Jai didn't take any of the star cluster level or cluster star level civilizations seriously. Since the Alliance High Command ordered him to act, he naturally had nothing to hesitate about and immediately made his move. Then, under the gaze of the many experts from the three continental alliances and the Emperor Star Alliance, the flagship Blazing Flame didn't even use its main cannon. It only fired a focused particle cannon. Boom! The next moment, the blue and red focused particle cannon ray pierced through the clouds and rocks, streaking across the sky and earth. Divine rank expert Long Jai's punch was easily shattered into dust by the particle beam. Even divine rank expert Long Jai himself instantly vanished into ashes, failing to leave behind even his god crystal core. Seeing such a scene, the disdain on the faces of Bai Gongzhai and the others immediately turned into respect. They were just short of welcoming the great commander Lu Yuge to his loyal Shenhuang continent, the Emperor Star Alliance, who had not underestimated Lu Yuge and his group from the start, now regarded them with even greater importance. After using a focused particle cannon to instantly obliterate a divine rank expert, Lu Yuge spoke again. The star system you are in belongs to the desolate star system. Your two civilizations are the only two civilizations within the desolate star system. You have long been located outside the Great Universe Rift Zone, which is why you have not been discovered by the Vermilion Bird Empire's exploration fleet. Since you are also civilizations located within the scope of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, you are part of the great family of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster. The Vermilion Bird Star Cluster is governed by the Star Cluster-level civilization, the Vermilion Bird Empire. If you have irreconcilable conflicts that must be resolved through war, you must apply to the Vermilion Bird Empire before waging war. If either side initiates war without authorization in the future, The relevant personnel will be sanctioned by the Vermilion Bird Empire. Upon hearing this, the faces of Gu Qijue and the others immediately darkened. Gu Qijue had savagely occupied a territory, and now the envoy of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster suddenly arrived and told them they were not allowed to start wars without permission in the future. The people of the Emperor Star Alliance, however, were cheering and overjoyed. With a star cluster-level civilization maintaining order, they clearly wouldn't be besieged by the forces of the three continental plates anytime soon, allowing them to develop in peace. Of course, Lu Yuge had not finished speaking. Therefore, he continued, "Currently, the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster is resisting the invasion of the Qianqi Star Cluster. As members of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, you have the responsibility and obligation to resist the invaders." Upon hearing this, Gu Qijue and the others were practically fainting from anger. They had recently suffered a silent loss at the hands of the Emperor Star Alliance, and now the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster wasn't even giving them a chance to retaliate. Furthermore, they were being ordered to go to the front lines to help the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster fight a war. In the past, they hadn't received any benefits from the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster. They had always developed on their own in this place. Of course, no matter how many objections Gu Qijue and the others had, it was useless. The flagship Blazing Flame was equipped with a large number of focused particle cannons, and their divine rank experts were no match for this fleet. At this moment, Lu Yuge and the others, clad in nanite mecha, emerged from the flagship Blazing Flame. Lu Yuge then released the immense power of a super god rank expert, scanning the crowd as he spoke. "Could someone briefly introduce me to the general situation and current status of your two civilizations?" When Lu Yuge erupted with super god rank strength, Gu Qijue and the others became extremely wary. Lu Yuge possessing super god rank strength meant he could easily instantly kill them. Facing such a dangerous existence, who would dare step forward to speak? What if they said something that displeased Lu Yuge and ended up being killed? While Gu Qijue and the others were extremely fearful and stammering, afraid to speak, Gu Qijue spoke up neither subserviently nor arrogantly. "Hello, Commander Lu Yuge, I am Gu Qijue, head of Emperor Star." The two intelligent civilizations within the Desolate Star System are the Emperor Star Civilization and the Shenhuang Continent Civilization. The Shenhuang Continent is a purely cultivation civilization, while the Emperor Star Civilization operates with both technological civilization and cultivation civilization. The Shenhuang Continent is divided into 9 continental plates. Historically, the Southeast Continent Plate was fragmented by various cultivation forces, leading to constant warfare. Currently, the Southeast Continent Plate has been completely unified by the Emperor Star Alliance. This has harmed the interests of the East Continent Alliance, the Central Continent Alliance, and the South Continent Alliance. These 3 continental alliances were preparing to jointly attack the Emperor Star Alliance, but they were stopped by Your Excellency the Commander. That is the basic situation. 195. Miniature wormhole generator. Gu Qijue's performance surprised many. Most people hadn't expected Gu Qijue to be able to converse with Lu Yuge as equals, neither humble nor overbearing. One must know that Lu Yuge is a super god rank expert. The fleet he commanded was an invincible fleet to the current Emperor Star and Shenhuang Continent. Under such circumstances, Gu Qijue remained incredibly calm, which was very rare. Even Lu Yuge and the others brightened their eyes at Gu Qijue, showing curiosity. They had previously encountered some indigenous civilizations living in the desolate borderlands. These civilizations, regardless of strength, behaved similarly to Gu Qijue and the others. Civilization leaders like Gu Qijue, who could be neither humble nor overbearing, were few and far between. Lu Yuge smiled amicably and said, "Lord Gu Qijue." "Hello." After speaking, he curiously asked, "Everyone else is very afraid of me. Why are you not afraid at all?" Gu Qijue didn't say anything like, "I'm just not afraid." Although he truly wasn't afraid after all. Lu Yuge was only in the early stage of super god rank, and Gu Qijue was stronger than Lu Yuge in his blood dragon god state. If necessary, he could even transform into a blood dragon god and smash Lu Yuge to death. Thus, he naturally wouldn't fear Lu Yuge. However, Lu Yuge was relatively friendly, so he could also respond in a friendly manner. Because we are also a part of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, the Vermilion Bird Empire. A star cluster-level civilization acts as the patriarch of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster. When a cluster member hasn't done anything wrong, it naturally wouldn't do anything unfriendly to them. After Gu Qijue finished his reply, Lu Yuge immediately clapped his hands in admiration, and directly appointed, as the commander of the Blazing Flame Exploration Fleet, I formally announce. From this moment on, the Desolate Star System Alliance is established. The members of the Desolate Star System currently include the Emperor Star Civilization and the Shenhuang Continent Civilization. Gu Qijue, the leader of the Emperor Star Civilization, will serve as the Alliance Lord of the Desolate Star System Alliance. Until the Vermilion Bird Empire makes a new appointment, all intelligent civilizations within the Desolate Star System will be managed by Gu Qijue. I will leave a flamingo starship for the Desolate Star System to use. Soon, a specialist from the Vermilion Bird Empire will come to help the Desolate Star System set up an ultra-long-distance spatial teleportation device. In the future, you can trade equally with civilizations across the entire Vermilion Bird star cluster. You can also use the ultra-long-distance spatial teleportation device to enter the front lines and achieve great deeds. I have finished speaking. Are there any objections? Of course. Bei Gongzhai and the others would vote against Lu Yuge's decision with both hands and feet. But not long ago, Lu Yuge unleashed his divine might, blasting a god into powder with a focused particle cannon. Under such circumstances, how could they dare to object? As no one spoke, Lu Yuge immediately continued. Since all parties have no objections, this matter is settled. Afterward, the starship's crew will provide you with information about the Vermilion Bird star cluster, as well as some technological equipment. This will allow you to communicate with the outside world and obtain external information. As Lu Yuge's words fell, a large number of starship crew members immediately came over with data. On Gu Qijue's side, Bettina was originally coming over to explain the situation to him, but someone suddenly stopped Bettina. Upon seeing this person, Bettina also stopped. At first glance, this person was just an ordinary member of the starship crew. In reality, the other party was the 11th princess of the Vermilion Bird Empire, Catherine. However, only Lu Yuge, Bettina, and the Guardian Knight Rod knew her identity. Standing behind Catherine was her Guardian Knight Rod. Rod was also a super god rank expert, and he didn't pay any attention to the people on the Shenhuang continent. After Catherine came in front of Gu Qijue, she asked, "Do you also have technology?" Gu Qijue nodded. "Yes." Catherine seemed to want to tease Gu Qijue intentionally, so she held up a silver sculpture and asked Gu Qijue, "Do you know what this is?" Gu Qijue truly didn't know what this silver sculpture was, but it didn't matter if he didn't know, for the infinite engine did. Miniature wormhole generator can instantly form a stable spatial wormhole in an area. The principle is as follows. Emperor Star did have spatial jump technology, but Emperor Star's spatial jump equipment was as large as a truck. If not for the infinite engine, Gu Qijue really couldn't have imagined that this thing was actually a wormhole generator. He observed it for a moment, then said, "If I'm not mistaken, this should be a miniature wormhole generator." Catherine, Rod, Bettina, and many others were originally waiting to see Gu Qijue make a fool of himself. After all, there was a joke about primitive civilizations using particle cannons as fire pokers. But the smiles on Catherine's and the others' faces instantly froze, especially Catherine. She was utterly dumbfounded. This kind of miniature wormhole generator had extremely high technological content. A palm-sized object that could generate a wormhole was considered cutting-edge technology even in the Vermilion Bird star cluster. Who would have thought that Gu Qijue would just glance at it and immediately identify what it was? Catherine couldn't help but ask seriously, "Does Emperor Star also possess such spatial technology?" Emperor Star certainly didn't have it before, but it didn't matter. Gu Qijue discovered that he could use the infinite engine to create similar devices. He immediately didn't hesitate and chose to manufacture one. The relevant materials in his spatial device quickly disappeared. A moment later, a palm-sized conch appeared in his spatial device. This was a metallic conch full of technological flair, colored aviation white. When Gu Qijue took out the metallic conch, a scanner appeared before Catherine's eyes. Not just her, but Bettina and the others were also scanning. Then Catherine, Guardian Knight Rod, Bettina, and the others were completely dumbfounded. Good heavens. Emperor Star's miniature wormhole generator was even more advanced than theirs. Princess Catherine even took a step back in fright. She worried that Gu Qijue was pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger, and that the so-called Emperor Star Alliance might also be a star cluster-level civilization. One mountain cannot hold two tigers. If the Emperor Star Alliance was also a star cluster-level civilization, then Emperor Star and the Vermilion Bird Empire would have to contend for dominance over the Vermilion Bird star cluster. At this moment, Lu Yuge also rushed over. He had also noticed what was happening here. After he arrived, he asked with great confusion, "How does Emperor Star possess such advanced technology?" Gu Qijue had, of course, already prepared his explanation. Emperor Star's technology has not developed evenly. Some areas have developed very quickly, while others are still in the early stage. Upon hearing this, Lu Yuge and the others understood that it was just a false alarm. The Emperor Star civilization likely put all its skill points into the miniature wormhole generator, a technological civilization with a skewed skill tree. 196, Expedition, Cluster-level civilization battle zone, the arrival of Lu Yuge, Catherine, and the others had a tremendous impact on the Shenhuang continent and Emperor Star. This meant that neither the Shenhuang continent nor Emperor Star would be a closed system in the future. They could travel to other parts of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, and other intelligent life forms from the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster might also come to Emperor Star and the Shenhuang continent. The overall reactions of the Shenhuang continent and Emperor Star to their arrival were completely opposite. Most of the experts on the Shenhuang continent felt uncomfortable, while the people of Emperor Star developed intense curiosity about the outside world. The super god rank was the pinnacle for experts on the Shenhuang continent. However, with the arrival of the Blazing Flame Exploration Team, the experts of the Shenhuang continent and the Emperor Star Alliance learned about even higher levels of life. South Heng Domain, Emperor Star Alliance, Supreme Conference Hall. All the experts of the Emperor Star Alliance were discussing what the Emperor Star Alliance should do next. The first to speak was the demigod Gu Yangs of Taegu Group. Under the gaze of many, he spoke with a serious expression. From the intelligence provided by the Blazing Flame Exploration Team, Emperor Star and the Shenhuang continent are at a medium level among the many civilizations in the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster. Dao Taihuang shook his head and said, "Strictly speaking, it's a medium-low level. The Shenhuang continent and the Emperor Star Alliance currently do not have their own super godrank experts. Only with super godrank experts can a civilization be considered mid-level within the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster. And to truly gain a firm foothold and have some say in the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, the emergence of universe-level life is required." In the conference hall, some people were deep in thought, while some experts who hadn't read Chinese letter were completely bewildered. Among the many demigods, great emperors and quasi-emperors of Emperor Star, there were still quite a few who hadn't read Chinese letter. The reason they hadn't read Chinese letter was that they had previously followed the cultivation system and lacked understanding of the technology system. Seeing the confusion in many people's eyes, Lord Gu Qijue spoke. The Vermilion Bird Star Cluster is not complicated. It is composed of countless special celestial bodies like Emperor Star and the Shenhuang continent, as well as conventional celestial bodies. Universe-level life above super god rank is divided into F rank to SSR rank. There's no need to delve into it for now. You just need to know that His Excellency, the leader of the Star Cluster-level civilization Vermilion Bird Empire, is a D-rank universe-level expert. Next, let's discuss two more urgent matters. Everyone, feel free to express your thoughts. First, how to deal with the relationships with the forces of the other 8 continental plates on the Shenhuang continent. Second, who should be sent to the frontline battlefield where the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster and the Qianqi Star Cluster are clashing. After Lord Gu Qijue finished speaking, everyone began to ponder these two questions. It can be said that Lord Gu Qijue, as the head of Emperor Star, was very capable. While most people were still confused, he could clearly and accurately point out what everyone should do right now. Vice Head of State Gu Qijue thought for a moment and said, "Regarding the forces of the other 8 continental plates on the Shenhuang continent, we should cooperate. If we continue to resist, we will be sanctioned unless we get permission from the Vermilion Bird Empire. Since we cannot continue to resist, we can cooperate in some areas. As for going to the frontline battlefield where the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster and the Qianqi Star Cluster are fighting, I think we should first send an exploration team to investigate the specific situation before making a decision." Vice Head Jai Tianyu nodded upon hearing this. "I agree with Vice Head of State Gu Qijue's suggestion, but I'd like to add one point. We must continue to guard against Bei Gongzhai and the others. In the short term, the Vermilion Bird Empire is unlikely to approve continued conflict between the Shenhuang continent and Emperor Star. However, it is still possible that with the efforts of Bei Gongzhai and others, this matter could gain the approval of the Vermilion Bird Empire. So we must be prepared and also ready to unify the entire Shenhuang continent. Jai Tianyu's thoughts were the same as Lord Gu Qijue's. Therefore, after she finished speaking, Lord Gu Qijue immediately decided, "Excellent, Vice Head Jai Tianyu's thoughts align with mine. We must cooperate with the forces of the other 8 continental plates on the Shenhuang continent, but also guard against them, and at the same time, be prepared to unify the entire Shenhuang continent at the appropriate time." As for the war between the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster and the Qianqi Star Cluster, there's no need to send an advance team first. This head of state has decided to go and see for myself. After Lord Gu Qijue finished speaking, everyone in the conference hall objected. "I object. That's too risky." Jai Tianyu was the first to speak and others followed suit. On Emperor Star and the Shenhuang continent, Lord Gu Qijue was a top expert who could sweep away thousands of troops like rolling mats. But on the battlefield of star cluster-level civilizations, there were experts even more powerful than Lord Gu Qijue. If anything happened to Lord Gu Qijue, the Emperor Star Alliance would be no match for the Shenhuang continent. Their best outcome would be to be driven back to Emperor Star. The worst outcome would be to be enslaved by the forces of the other 8 continental plates on the Shenhuang continent. However, Lord Gu Qijue had already made up his mind on this matter. Therefore, everyone's objections were, of course, useless. Facing the objections, Lord Gu Qijue calmly said, "If I am in danger on the battlefield, then others going would be a one-way trip. When I go to the battlefield with my powerful strength, I can gather as much information as possible. Moreover, I have a life-saving trump card, even if I encounter a super god rank. I can retreat safely. This matter is settled. During my absence from the Emperor Star Alliance headquarters, the Emperor Star Alliance will be jointly managed by Vice Head of State Dai Qi, Vice Head Jai Tianyu, and Moon God. You can discuss and decide on all matters, big and small, concerning the Emperor Star Alliance." After Lord Gu Qijue said this, everyone, of course, could not argue. Moreover, Lord Gu Qijue had already made up his mind, so any further persuasion from the crowd would be useless. Thus, after Lu Yuge and the others set up the ultra-long-distance spatial transmission device on the Shenhuang continent, Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star was also about to embark on a new journey. However, he was not in a hurry. He only departed after Lu Yuge and the others had left. To Lord Gu Qijue's surprise, the other 8 continental plates also decided to send experts to scout the way, just like the Emperor Star Alliance. When he arrived near the ultra-long-distance spatial transmission device, he saw the god-rank experts from the other 8 continental plates who had arrived. Bei Gongjai and the others, with whom he had previously interacted, were also here. A god-rank expert in a purple dress walked over in a friendly manner after seeing Lord Gu Qijue. "Hello, Lord Gu Qijue. I am a god-rank cultivator from the North Continental Alliance. My name is Zai Ling. 197, Identity Crystal Card, Newcomer Guide, since one does not hit a smiling face." And the other party was very friendly. Gu Qijue greeted her politely. "Hello. Your Excellency Zai Ling, do you need something?" Gu Qijue noticed an interesting phenomenon. The other 7 continental alliances uniformly dispatched 3 god-rank experts each. Only the North Continental Alliance dispatched Zai Ling alone. Of course, Zai Ling alone definitely possessed the ability to fight 3 people simultaneously. She, like Gu Qijue's 3rd combat form, possessed peak god rank strength. Perhaps because both of them possessed the mighty strength of the peak god rank, Zai Ling came looking for him, though it could also be for other reasons. After Gu Qijue asked, Zai Ling said very seriously, "Lord Gu Qijue, I wish to explore the star cluster level civilization battlefield with you. I wonder if we could journey together?" Gu Qijue nodded indifferently. "We can." He hadn't expected that among the 8 continental alliances of the Shenhuang continent, there would be people who held a friendly attitude towards Emperor Star. Not long after everyone arrived, a vertical hexagonal transmission light gate also reacted at that moment. This meant that, starting from this moment, this ultra-long-distance spatial transmission device could be used normally. Gu Qijue did not hesitate and stepped into the ultra-long-distance spatial transmission device. Emperor Star's technology could also perform wormhole travel, but it couldn't traverse such a great distance. After Gu Qijue entered, Zai Ling hesitated slightly, but still entered the spatial transmission equipment. The moment their figures entered, they instantly vanished. After a period of time, they would appear on the battlefield where the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster and the Qianqi Star Cluster were fighting. Approximately an hour later, Gu Qijue stepped out of another ultra-long-distance spatial transmission device. After Gu Qijue appeared, Zai Ling followed closely behind. When Zai Ling saw everything around her, even as a peak god rank expert, she felt the shock of Grandma Liu entering the Grand View Garden. Looking at this base filled with various black technologies, Zai Ling truly didn't know what to say. The forces of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster clearly possessed the ability to transform planets into spacecraft, and also the ability to create planets. The place where everyone was currently located was an artificial planet. This was one of the logistics planets belonging to the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster located behind the battlefield. Large amounts of supplies and combat troops were prioritized for transport here. Not long after Gu Qijue and the others appeared, a universe-level expert above the super god rank appeared before them. This was a translucent humanoid creature. Gu Qijue was not unfamiliar with this life form, an energy state life. The energy state life form glanced at Gu Qijue and the others, then introduced itself. "My name is Vita. Although it might be offensive, I am indeed the guide for you rookies. In other words, you will receive my guidance and protection for your first 3 round trips to this battlefield. I am an F-rank cosmic level life form, 2 ranks higher than you. Logically speaking, I have sufficient ability to protect your safety. Unfortunately, the situation on the battlefield is complex, constantly changing, and uncontrollable. It's not just you, even I am highly likely to die. Now, do you have any questions? If not, I will begin the first guidance." Gu Qijue and Zai Ling had no questions. Bei Gongzhai and the others, however, had questions. The person who spoke up was Bei Gongzhai. "Your Excellency Vita, what level are god rank experts at on the battlefield?" The question he asked was quite crucial, but Vita shook his head. "Rookie, you said one thing wrong. You should ask what level god rank weaklings are at on the battlefield. I'll tell you honestly, 8th rank warriors and 9th rank warriors are all cannon fodder on a star cluster level battlefield. In terms you can understand, quasi-emperors and imperial rank, as well as demigods and god rank, are all cannon fodder. Super god rank and F-rank cosmic warriors are considered average level. E-rank cosmic level warriors and D-rank cosmic level warriors are the true experts." After Vita finished speaking, Bei Gongzhai and the others understood just how dangerous this wretched place was. Great emperors and god rank experts were merely consumables in this place. Only super god rank experts and F-rank experts had a certain degree of self-preservation ability. Only E-rank and D-rank universe-level experts could be considered true experts. If everything Vita said was true, Bei Gongzhai and the others didn't even want to enter the battlefield anymore. Gu Qijue confirmed that what Vita said was mostly true, because everywhere he looked in this place, the baseline was at least quasi-emperors. Moreover, the quasi-emperors here were stronger than the quasi-emperors of the Shenhuang continent and Emperor Star. The quasi-emperors here could be used as great emperors if placed on the Shenhuang continent or Emperor Star. Even if Bei Gongzhai and the others wanted to retreat, they couldn't. Since they had come, they had to take a trip around the battlefield no matter what. While everyone else was filled with worry, Gu Qijue asked very calmly, "Are intelligent life forms below the quasi-emperor rank not allowed to come to this battlefield?" Vita was actually observing Gu Qijue as well. Among everyone present, only Gu Qijue appeared completely calm. Naturally, this made Vita somewhat curious about him. Even Zai Ling beside him had a flicker of fear in her eyes. After Gu Qijue asked, Vita replied casually, "Of course not. They are transported to the edge of the battlefield to handle some very easy tasks. However, as soon as a god-rank enemy appears near them, they will be completely massacred." Although many civilizations continuously dispatch warriors above the quasi-emperor rank to try their luck here, but their mortality rate is as high as 95%. Out of 100 warriors below the quasi-emperor rank who enter this battlefield, only 5 will ultimately leave alive. Of course, there are exceptions, which are nanite mecha pilots. Even if their strength isn't high with the mecha empowering them, they can still unleash imperial rank, or even god rank combat power. When Vita mentioned mechas, Zai Ling and Bei Gongzhai's group looked at Gu Qijue with slight envy. The Shenhuang continent does not have a technology tree, and naturally, no mechas. Although they had magic treasures, they didn't have magic treasures that could rival mechas in terms of cost-effectiveness. Refining magic treasures is not an easy task, but producing mechas is not difficult for an assembly line. Everyone had no more questions after that. Then, under Vita's guidance, they went to process their identity crystal cards and nanite combat wristbands. The identity crystal card was their pass in this place and needed to be used in conjunction with the nanite combat wristband. The nanite combat wristband could be used for instant communication, data querying, and checking one's respective military merits. After Gu Qijue and his group received their respective crystal cards and combat wristbands, they followed Vita and entered the battlefield where the two-star cluster-level civilizations were fighting. 198. Destroy the Moon Barrier mission. This battlefield belongs to the Vermilion Bird star cluster and is called the Yun Galaxy. The Yun Galaxy contains tens of trillions of continents like the Shenhuang continent. However, there are only 30 main battlefields between the Vermilion Bird star cluster and the Qianqi star cluster in the Yun Galaxy. As for the other secondary battlefields, they are countless. Vita quickly led Gu Qijue and the others to a planet covered in devastation. This planet was quite interesting not long ago. It was actually the home of dinosaurs. There were large numbers of dinosaur corpses here, as well as many dinosaurs still clinging to life. Vita led the group and appeared high in the sky. Then he said to Gu Qijue and the others, "Do you see those ultra-long-distance spatial teleportation devices? Our mission on this planet is to destroy those ultra-long-distance spatial teleportation devices set up by the Qianqi star cluster." Of course, those spatial teleportation devices might just be decoys, individual traps. The Qianqi star cluster's true spatial teleportation devices are set up, just like ours, behind the battlefield. However, destroying these spatial teleportation devices is still necessary. The location we are currently in is the outermost periphery of the battlefield, where fighting generally does not occur. But as you continue to delve deeper, battles will break out. Gu Qijue noticed the key point in Vita's last two sentences. We and you, not only Gu Qijue but the others also noticed. Zai Ling asked suspiciously, "Your Excellency Vita, do you mean that you won't be accompanying us from now on?" Vita nodded. "Exactly. You can use your combat wristbands to search for a resource called Moon Radiance Ore. The mission for all of you this time is to obtain 100 Moon Radiance Ore pieces in this battlefield. These Moon Radiance Ore pieces were brought by the Qianqi star cluster. When Moon Radiance Ore is activated by a lunar power device, it forms a massive moon radiance barrier. The intelligent life forms of the Vermilion Bird star cluster cannot freely enter or exit the moon radiance barrier. Planets enveloped by the moon radiance barrier will all be occupied by the Qianqi star cluster. However, the fusion of the moon radiance ore with the planet is a relatively slow process, taking approximately 2 to 3 weeks. During this time, our people need to retrieve as much of this moon radiance ore as possible." After Vita finished speaking, Gu Qijue understood. Zai Ling and Bei Gongzhai and the others all understood. Understanding was one thing, but this task would certainly not be easy to accomplish. Especially since Vita would not be acting with them next, everything would rely on themselves. With a thought, Gu Qijue's combat wristband projected a virtual screen. After learning the details about the moon radiance ore, he immediately set off. Zai Ling was initially somewhat hesitant, but seeing Gu Qijue set off, she quickly followed suit. Catching up to Gu Qijue, she cautiously asked, "Lord Gu Qijue, why do you seem completely unafraid?" Of course, Gu Qijue couldn't tell Zai Ling the truth. He wasn't afraid because he had scanned the surroundings with the infinite engine, and there was no danger. What he said was, "Since we are here, we should make the best of it. Fear is useless. Besides, no matter what, Vita wouldn't intentionally bring us here to die." While speaking, Gu Qijue dug a piece of moon radiance ore out of the soil. Then a prompt appeared on his combat wristband, plus 0.936 points of military merit. The military merit system of the Vermilion Bird star cluster is somewhat special. It is not fixed but dynamically adjusted. For example, for this piece of moon radiance ore, Gu Qijue only received this much military merit by obtaining it now. But if Gu Qijue had taken this moon radiance ore the moment the moon radiance barrier started forming, then, based on the calculation and analysis of the combat wristband's terminal AI, he would have been considered to have made a critical contribution. In that scenario, the military merit he would have received could have been thousands or tens of thousands of times greater than now. Seeing Gu Qijue start searching for moon radiance ore with great ease, Zai Ling also relaxed slightly. Bei Gongzhai and the others, however, were quite comical. Gu Qijue and Zai Ling looked like they were on an outing, while the others looked like they were diffusing mines. Everyone present was uniformly a god-rank expert, deities in the eyes of mortals. Yet, after such a long time, the deity who had traveled the furthest hadn't even gone 100 kilometers. For these divine-rank experts, this was no different from standing still. Normally, with a single thought, the distance they could instantly teleport was thousands or tens of thousands of kilometers. While Gu Qijue and Zai Ling had already gained some rewards, Bei Gongzhai and the others had gained nothing, because some other people who came here behaved similarly to them, just wandering around the periphery and not daring to go deeper. Of course, Gu Qijue and Zai Ling venturing deep in such a rush also came with some trouble. A group of Qianqi Star Cluster warriors discovered Gu Qijue and Zai Ling at this moment. Buzz, 10 quantum lightsabers were instantly drawn. All these Qianqi Star Cluster warriors were wearing nanite mecha. Their strength was uniformly God rank. Vita was indeed correct when he said that God ranks were cannon fodder in this place, facing unknown enemies. Zai Ling was extremely cautious, which is why she was stunned the next moment. While she was still preparing to test the enemies to see what level they were at, Gu Qijue instantly entered his second combat form and rushed forward, holding the blood spear. Bang, 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 3 muffled sounds rang out consecutively in a single exchange. 3 God-rank warriors were strung together like candied hawthorns by Gu Qijue and instantly killed. The remaining 7 reacted and prepared to flee. But Gu Qijue raised and dropped his spear, continuously chasing and killing them. This was a one-sided, overwhelming crush. This Qianqi Star Cluster Patrol squad was completely annihilated by Gu Qijue in less than half a minute. The power of the blood dragon god within his body had undergone further fusion. In his first form, he already possessed the strength of a demigod peak. His second combat form possessed the strength of God rank 8th layer. His third and fourth forms also rose with the tide, becoming stronger. Zai Ling knew that the head of Emperor Star possessed terrifying combat power, but she only realized now that Gu Qijue's strength was formidable to this extent, although the strongest member of this patrol squad only had the strength of God rank 3rd layer. But no matter what, they were 10 God ranks, yet they were all instantly killed by Gu Qijue in less than half a minute. While Zai Ling was extremely shocked, Gu Qijue was very happy. Although these 10 fellows were wearing nanite mecha, they were all God rank warriors. After they were taken down, they all left behind God crystal cores. All these God crystal cores could be used by the infinite engine to create gods. Although God rank warriors are merely cannon fodder on the battlefield of a star cluster level civilization. However, they are still very useful in the limited area of the Shenhuang continent. Once they possess enough deities, the Emperor Star Alliance can naturally gain complete control over the Shenhuang continent. Please give me recommendation votes. Monthly votes, thank you. 199, planetary upheaval, a sudden blockade. Vita saw Gu Qijue's performance. Not only did he see it, but he also recorded it. He was not only the guide for Gu Qijue and the others, but also their observer. Currently, Gu Qijue's performance was excellent, and Zai Ling's performance was satisfactory. The performances of everyone else, including Bei Gongzhai, were unsatisfactory. A star cluster level civilization is a mixture of benevolence and cruelty. They are benevolent toward useful people but cruel toward useless ones. Resources, time, and energy are limited, so a star cluster level civilization can only cultivate elites. This requires eliminating the incompetent and dedicating all time and energy to cultivating the elites. Gu Qijue didn't know what Vita was recording, but his expression suddenly turned grim. "What's wrong?" Zai Ling asked when she noticed the change in Gu Qijue's expression.